2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, one. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2. 1, 2.
And then this is up. And then you have to go higher to use the leg check. And use that one forward, then maybe go higher again.
Can I go all the way up?
No, I'll tell you when. Alright?
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to round 2 of the Lucky Day Competitions Irish Drift Series. We're here in Bishopscourt in Northern Ireland, a venue that is quickly becoming a firm favourite for fans and drivers alike, down to its fast entries, tight technical sections that set this track up for incredibly exciting battles. My name's Eddie Power. I am here joined in the commentary tower, as always, by my good friend and former pro driver here in Ireland, Mike Fitzgerald. Mike, you were here watching on yesterday, and obviously this is the second time that this event has been on the calendar here for an Irish Championship. We're starting to get to know this place quite well. A lot of laps and a lot of rubber laid down on this track over the course of the last 2 days. It's been dry, it's been wet, we've had a little bit of everything. talk us through how you've seen it so far and what should we expect from our driver grid today here for Pro Sunday.
Yeah, it's been full of thrills and spills so far. Not sure how many people were actually watching our Pro 2 competition yesterday, but the rain came absolutely buckling down for the second half of battle competition, and it was absolutely crazy for the drivers to navigate. Hopefully we don't get that level of rain today, but I do see in the forecast that there's actually like a nice mix of rain and sunshine. So yeah, I do quite like that sometimes, because it does throw up, you know, it gives you the speed to tire smoke, but it does then throw up all the drama associated with the changing conditions as well. So the Pro guys are always fast, furious, and let's see what they can bring to the table today.
Yes, well, of course, 40 drivers making the trip up to Bishopscourt this weekend, and they will need to be able to adapt quickly if the weather conditions do change. And we'll be able to see in the distance, Mike, as the clouds start to come in, if it is going to change as the day goes on. So a reminder of what happened at round one. Dwayne McKeever taking the win in a final that I think a lot of people had their eyes on. Ryusei Akiba showing exactly what he is made of here at round one in the Irish Drift Championship, or Irish Drift Series rather, in Mondello Park. Japfest, he really showed what he was capable of, Mike.
Yeah, the Japanese driver was originally planning to do just 3 rounds out of the 5, but after his fantastic showing in a very difficult round 1 in Mondello Park, where he navigated that difficult entry so well, I think the guys there, Paul Stryker and all the guys got together and made it happen really to get him up here and, you know, contest his championship, because we're not sure if Dwayne McKeever is going to contest all 5 rounds or not. He's leading the championship, but, you know, Ryusei is there, he's in 2nd position, and by the looks of it, he's got what it takes to actually take this championship, so he's back to contest at round 2.
Yeah, well, that remains to be seen, and you feel as though if Dwayne McKeever can get a result here this weekend, you know, another podium at least, he may have his sights set on taking down another Irish championship. As you mentioned, Ryusei Akiba, 2nd step on the podium, but young Jack Caldwell taking 3rd step, showing that he has got just what it takes to mix it with the guys at the highest level here in Ireland, and also a surprise driver to some extent, Paulius Judicious, getting that 4th place finish. He was delighted with that. Will that be able to transfer over into round 2? Saw some of his practice runs here this morning. Looked like he was struggling, but of course he did have a big accident in that car on Friday, so that car probably not what he is used to, and probably battling some gremlins there. So a lot to play for, a lot going on behind the scenes, Mike. It's been 2 long days of driving, but I want to talk about one man, the man who was on the top step of the podium yesterday, Luke Talley, taking his very first win in a Pro 2 class. He's going to be on the semi-slicks today, mixing it up with the big boys in that incredibly well-built GT86 from GDM Sport. Two events under his belt in that car, and he puts it on the top step. You got to see it, you got to call it, Mike. Talk us through the drive from Luke and how you felt about it.
Yeah, I mentioned it yesterday actually. Luke Talley, he's been getting better and better according as the events have been, you know, he's been clocking up events over the last year or so, and really he seems to learn from every event. That's what I'm impressed by most from him. He's used all that experience that he's gained. He's built a really good car, and like you said, he took the top step on the podium yesterday in crazy conditions, guys. If you haven't seen it, just look back at the final 4 at the grade 8 even, and the drivers were literally driving through a flood on entry. Luke was the most consistent throughout the day. Unfortunately, Dylan Wilson in the BMW had clutch failure, so Luke took the win. But you know what? He's on the semi-slicks. I met him this morning. He's excited, and he's been driving all day yesterday. Hasn't driven on semi-slick tyres yet, so he's got to learn those definitely. But let's see what he can do.
Well, you mentioned the C word, Mike, consistency, and we talk about it so much, particularly in the Pro 2 class, because that is where you're going to win a championship, you're going to win rounds by being consistent. And certainly from any of the runs that I saw Luke doing yesterday, it was consistent, confident lead runs. Despite the weather conditions changing, he was able to adapt to it. Can he now put in a big score in a pro competition? Well, only time will tell. Exactly. So let's take a look at how the format of the competition will run today. So we will start, as always, with qualifying. We will run qualifying in non-consecutive championship order, so we'll go from the lowest ranking driver all the way up to the highest ranking driver. Each one of our drivers will get 2 qualifying runs, non-consecutive runs, and they will be scored out of 100 by our 3 judges in attendance here, Kieran Hines, Tom Murphy and Tomas Falvey. quick look at the track, Mike. Talk us through it. You saw it yesterday, and I'm sure Kieran Hines will be able to talk us through it in more detail as well. But it's quite a tricky and technical little circuit that we have here for our drivers today.
Yeah, guys, and just on the live stream as well, I mentioned it yesterday, it's hard to see it on the live stream, and guys, get involved, get us some comments in, we'll get interactive with you guys, so be sure to drop the comments in there on the YouTube. But there is a little bit of a hill down to the initiation points. It's quite hard to see on live stream, and it is quite a fast run up. The drivers are probably hitting, well, it's not that fast, but it's about 80 miles an hour. For the corner that you're coming into, you have to scrub a lot of speed. So a little bit downhill section. The judges want to see a lack of handbrake entry where possible. Slight touch of the handbrake on initiation is fine, just to steady the car up, but they don't want to see a big long handbrake drag. They want to see one consistent movement, flick it in and get into the corner and get on the power. Then through the first transition, they want to see full throttle commitment, which allows you to get into the corner here in front of the grandstand and basically just carry the momentum of the car all the way into the first or the second corner. Sorry, they don't want to see a big long handbrake drag where you have to, where you become difficult to chase basically for the chase car. They want to see a really good lead run from qualifying, a very chaseable lead run. So they want to see full throttle commitment in, nice feathering of the throttle and nice throttle action through outer zone 2, and then once again full throttle through the next transition as the drivers approach outer zone 3 there, or clipping point 3. Little bit of a decel zone just before clipping point 3 is allowed, and then they want to see the drivers staying a little bit late actually through 3. Kieran Hines mentioned that in briefing. They don't want drivers coming away early from clipping point 3 because it messes up your line into the last corner. So they want to see the drivers staying wide there, out by the wall, out through zone 3, and then lastly a nice snap transition back onto full throttle around outer zone 4 and full throttle commitment across the line.
So, Mike, it looks as though we are almost ready to go to start warming the first of our drivers. As we said, some of our drivers from the Pro 2 class now getting the opportunity to compete with the pros, as we like to do at every event here in the Irish Drift Series. So it's a great opportunity for the drivers finishing in the top 4. We did hear, though, that Daniel Devine will not be competing. He was due to compete after finishing in 4th position yesterday. So we will move to our first driver, which will be young Jake Davey, who took that 3rd step on the podium yesterday, Mike.
Jake McElveen, in fact, he's actually wrong on our sheets there.
Sorry, Jake McElveen.
Jake McElveen, indeed. Yes, he did in the BMW. We were lining up for an all BMW top 4 yesterday. We didn't get it. We got 2 in the top 4, but Jake McElveen was one of those drivers. And again, guys, in our Pro 2 competition, obviously, we have Pro 2 Junior, we have Pro 2 Rookie, and we have the Pro 2 Outright. And we have 3 classes fighting for that top 4 spot in order to get battling with the pros. So it's a very good system to get the young drivers up. And Jake McElveen is actually a Pro 2 Junior driver. So these drivers are 13 to 16 years of age. They're allowed into the junior class, and they can compete with the big boys on the Sunday if they get far enough, which Jake McElveen did in the CDM Sport E46 BMW. Take it away, Ed.
Yeah, nice job so far here from Jake McElveen, and as we say, a lot of these young guns coming through the ranks, and no fear, a lot of bravery. Very fast, snappy transition there from Jake McElveen, throwing that car onto angle quite nicely and finishing the run in style. So, first driver to put a run in qualifying for round 2 here of the Irish Drift Series in Bishopscourt, as we await the scores to drop in from the judges.
And I can see from the live stream there, it is a 74.3 right away for Jake McElveen, and he's been driving this track all day yesterday in tougher conditions, but once again, those semi-slick rear tires do change things up an awful lot. The car has so much more grip. So well done to Jake as we move it along.
Yeah, so next driver, Dylan Wilson. Again, clutch failure yesterday, costing him an opportunity at the top step on the podium. But a driver that we've, since last year, been watching with a keen eye as he starts to rise through the ranks, and it's a nice first run so far. Takes it deep into that outer zone as he comes by the wall. You can just see that laser focus as he switches back to take it through that final section, and across the line goes Dylan Wilson for his first run of qualifying. So of course, remember, these first 3 drivers qualifying in from yesterday's Pro 2 competition and making the jump to the Pro class here at round 2 and giving themselves an opportunity to score some points in the Pro class as well.
It's a big step up, Eddie, as well, of course, you know.
Yeah, certainly is. Huge step up. And the score drops in for Dylan Wilson, 76.3 for him, as Luke Talley, now yesterday's round 2 Pro 2 winner, warms his tyres in the exemplar GT86 built by Gary Dunn and his father with the help of Anto Thompson in GDM Sport in County Kildare. So here we go, Luke Talley on the sticky tyres. Oh, just dropping wheels here and there, takes the cone out of it, now throws it down onto the wall, looks to fill this second outer zone. and gets the car on a much better line there. You can just see the drone footage capturing that line beautifully as the exemplar airport concierge driver throws it onto big angle now, flicks it back into that final zone, and Luke Talley gets himself across the line. Tidy first run there from yesterday's winner.
Yeah, and it is a big step up, especially onto the tyres, obviously with the drivers you're driving against as well, but these tyres make the car act so much differently. You almost have to fire it into the corner and send it off the track and use the wheel speed then to make the car go forward and push it back onto the track. So it's a different driving style on the semi-slicks.
So there you go, an 80.3 for Luke Talley on the board, and a huge first run for him.
That could see him in for battle, actually.
I think that will see him in. Mike, 40 drivers on the grid today. 80 is definitely going to be up there, and that's only his first run. As we move it back to the start line, where a man making his return to competition drifting here this weekend, David Garvey in that. Well, Mike, you're going to know this car very well.
I know this car extremely well. This was built at Group D, where I work every day. A fantastic S13, built to a crazy standard, to be fair. Dave is very happy with the car. I was speaking with him yesterday. He seems to be going quite well, but always in a new car, Ed, it takes a little bit of time to gel with it, obviously. But you know what, Ed, it doesn't look like he's taking much time to gel with it, because that is a bang-on lap. Yeah, that's really bang on. If I was to be in any way critical, I'd say maybe a little bit late leaving outer zone 2, which cost him then at clipping zone 3, but I think he's going to be happy with that score. It drops in an 83.7, so we're into the 80s nice and early here, and of course this track, once you get that entry right, Mike, flows so nicely for these drivers, so I would expect to see these scores going high right from the off. Mark McKevitt now gets ready to leave the line. And you mentioned there, Eddie, about the flowing. A typical Kieran Hines design track, our head judge Kieran Hines, who was joined in the judging tour by Tomas Falvey and Tom Murphy, but one section has to flow into the other. If you mess up one section, you're usually in trouble for the next one. Now let's see. Here comes Mark McKevitt, of course, his second day out in this car as well, competition wise. Just not happening for him though, Mike. Yeah, big mistake there for Mark on the entry, unfortunately not coming together for him there, and maybe just didn't get it quite right speed wise on the entry, and seemed to try to adjust it but didn't get it correct, that's for sure. Now he's after carrying a huge amount of speed in here and takes out the water barrier, so Mark McKevitt a little bit all over the place on this one, Ed. You know, Mike, I've spoken to Mark about this car. It's obviously a Quinn M Sport build, it's a fresh build, third day out in it, I believe, and I think he's still battling with the new car nerves. He's scared to drive it as hard as it needs to be driven in order to get it around the circuit, and as you know well, Mike, these cars, if you try and feather them and not drive them hard, that's when the crashes are going to happen. It does. You know, the semi-pro cars, especially the less gripped up ones, like we saw yesterday, the more lower powered, naturally aspirated BMWs and stuff, which went really well here yesterday in the rain, they can generally be set up to float around a little bit more, not to be gripping up instantly. But the big horsepower Nissans, the big horsepower Beamers, the pro cars and those GT86s, when you dial lots of grip into those with you know, complex suspension setup, soft spring rates, lots of toe angle, positive camber, and very low tire pressures, and obviously sticky tires. The second you come off throttle, these things straighten up. You have to be right on it, and they bite so hard if you don't put in exactly the right input at exactly the right time. So yeah, like you said, maybe Mark there just needing a couple more laps of practice under his belt, but he's not going to get it, Ed. He does get one more qualifying run, but he's got a lot to do. Yeah, he's going to have a lot to do, Mike, and it's you know, I think it's obviously early doors, but when 83.7 on the board and only 5 drivers in, and Johnny Flynn now sits on the line, the Falcon from Mount Falcon, and you know what, Johnny hasn't had a whole lot of luck with this car. Used to be SR20 powered, switched over to the straight 6 2JZ, and since then just hasn't had a day of just no problems. And I think, you know, any driver that's not getting consistent practice, consistent seat time, it's just going to struggle, and it's been a struggle this year for Johnny Flynn, so certainly deserves a good day out. Will today be that day? We have seen moments of brilliance from him in practice, but he needs to translate that over into his qualifying runs. And he's a Pro 2 champion of a couple of years ago, Eddie. I mean, he has it in his locker. He knows what it takes to be a champion. But it is a big step up to the pro class for sure. And again, we are in reverse championship order, guys. And you know, Johnny's early in the class here. He's early in qualifying, which would suggest, you know, that he's maybe not at the races quite as much as he would want to be in the pro class. But once again, he does have it in his locker. He knows what it takes. He just has to transfer that to the pro class. Yeah, and of course, look, we talk about it being reverse championship order and Johnny being down the order, but just, you know, car problems at round 1, and he had shown really strong signs in practice at round 1 that he could put in, you know, an 80 plus
qualifying score. But will it be better luck and will it be better fortune for him here at round 2? Well, let's hope that it is.
And speaking of the scores as well, Ed, obviously you have to qualify within the top 32 to get into the class, but there are huge advantages as well of qualifying highly, which we will get into just after Johnny's run here.
So here we go. Johnny makes his way through the gears, sets himself up for fast flick entry. Can he fill that outer zone? You can see getting those rear wheels in, but maybe not as deep as the judges would like to see, so certainly bleeding some points, but Johnny getting back onto it now and again. He's in the zones, but not as deep as we would like to see. Can he finish it off in style now as he switches back onto that wall and looks to fill the final zone? Good from Johnny, but maybe not the perfect run. Definitely has, it's a good safe run, we would say. Probably, late 70s, maybe might creep into the 80s. I'm not quite sure, but I'd say you might be looking at.
Well, you know what,
Eddie? An 82.3. So
does creep into the 80s. That is correct. Yeah. So once again, guys, qualifying highly does get you some championship points in IDS. You can get up to 11 championship points if you win qualifying, 10 for second, 9 for third, etc. In addition to that, obviously in the top 32, the highest qualifier faces off against the lowest qualifier, so first faces 32nd, etc. So it's a big advantage in the first battle as well to qualify highly. As we have Alan O'Loughlin in Conor Ansborough's car, borrowed car here for Alan O'Loughlin. Oh, and you can see that he's not exactly used to that car, Ed.
No, and that's the story of the season so far. Obviously, Alan driving borrowed cars, and it's just not quite working out for him. But we know Alan has been in contention for championships here in the past. A very capable driver on his day, but despite it being a similar chassis, there's always different nuances to every vehicle, Mike, and just maybe not as comfortable in that car as he'd like to be.
Yeah, there is absolutely. Alan's car coming back from the Oman International Drift Championship there, and we haven't seen him compete in his own car yet, unfortunately. And Eddie, do we have a score?
Yeah, the score drops in 63.3 for Alan O'Loughlin. So definitely room for improvement there, but we know Alan could very easily just come out and put a 95, 96 on the board. So certainly no time to panic just yet for him. We can make it back to the start line, where it looks as though we have
back to the future here almost. With Damien Wilkinson, who hasn't, a very, very common name to see in the Pro Grid many months ago, returning to competition here, Ed, this year.
Yeah, and maybe not coming back with a storm, but with potential storms here this weekend, maybe Damien Wilkinson will be.
See what you did there.
Yeah. Poorly executed, in fairness, Mike, but we'll go with it.
Nice idea, though. Nice idea, though. So Damien Wilkinson, a hard pilot, as we say down in Cork, an aggressive driver, and he's leading himself in here now into the first corner. But Ed, he doesn't quite fill out the first zone.
Yeah, I know a lot about not filling that first outer zone, Mike, from yesterday. But no, that's going to be a huge deduction in the score for Damien Wilkinson, as certainly has the machinery to get himself around this track, Mike. But the line just not there for him at the minute, and he was going to have to go back into the pits, reset, and try and figure out what went wrong and correct it for his second run, because that's certainly not going to be enough.
Well, Ed, you are competing in the semi-pro in the Pro 2 Championship now, and you unfortunately had to borrow a car yesterday. How difficult is this first corner? You've driven this yesterday in borrowed machinery. Certainly
for the first couple of runs, Mike, very hard to get a visual representation of where you need to enter, so that's something that I definitely struggled with. So maybe lack of practice, maybe possibly for Damien Wilkinson, but a 54.3 on the board for him, and maybe, look, as I say, could just be first run nerves and needs to just sort out the head. We move back to the start line, where now David Curtis leaves the line, a very capable driver on his day.
Yeah, the TH Components S14, a very familiar sight on the Irish Drift grid. Just drops a wheel there on the outside at the end of the first zone. Let's see if he can tidy it up a little bit here as he gets on that nice outside line all around outer zone 2. Now comes away nice and early. Does he carry it through? He does indeed. He's allowed to decelerate just into 3. A little bit of a funny transition, though. I think he had not the snappiest of transitions there, Ed. Maybe the style points just left a little bit out there in the eyes of the judges. But let's see. You spoke about nerves there. Never a nervous guy. He's always cool, calm and collected.
He certainly is in his first year in Pro. A 74.3 for David Curtis. He said they made huge changes to the car in preparation for the Pro. They even gave it a wash. So
and this next one is very interesting, Eddie. So guys, if you're watching at home or here in Bishopscourt with us, thank you for joining us. this is a rally driver, Eddie, deciding to dip his toe into the world of drifting. Christopher O'Callaghan's on the line.
Yeah, Christopher O'Callaghan, very wild style of driving. We're watching him in practice this morning.
Well, I wouldn't be navigating for him any in the rally anyway, that's for sure.
No, and I'm not sure, have they allowed somebody sit in with him to help him navigate around the circuit? I'm not sure. We'll have to discuss that with Kieran Hines. I think he did request to have somebody on the pace notes for this run, because he was having difficulty just figuring out what speed to go through each corner. But
it's a 3 left, the first one.
3 left.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah.
Followed by a 4 right, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it depends.
Titans.
You can have the notes going both ways, but yeah, pretty 4 right Titans exactly. Yeah, double caution into the wall. Here comes Christopher O'Callaghan.
And Christopher O'Callaghan, well, fires it in, just drops a wheel. You can see classic when they drop a wheel there, taking out that cone. That cone has taken an absolute beating this weekend, but O'Callaghan now looks to fill that zone, comes away from it nice and early, just what the judges want to see, but he does get the line wrong and misses and washes. That's 3 wheels off the track, or it certainly looked as though, from my perspective, Mike, I think this score is going to be, it's going to be heavily penalised here. A lot of wheels off the track, not the greatest line as he came out of outer zone 2 to outer zone 3, I'd say.
I like the aggression though, Ed. I like his driving style. It's aggressive, and it's always better to start aggressive and whittle it down into finesse rather than starting too tentative and trying to teach aggression. You can't really do that. So I think he's got it in him. It's just a case of whittling it down to the finer points.
Yeah, it just needs to be controlled aggression. 67 on the board for Christopher O'Callaghan. We move it back to the start line where Enda Lyons sits. And you know what? A man whose driving style I really enjoy watching. Very smooth, very exciting, fast and fluid.
Almost the opposite of what we just saw, Eddie, really, isn't it?
It's pretty much, exactly. So here we go. What can Enda Lyons do? Yeah, no, dropping out of that outer zone way too early, Mike.
Yeah.
And just getting that entry wrong, scrubbed a little bit too much speed. And Enda Lyons getting caught there. That's really going to hurt the score. It's really important to be getting that entry right. That's going to be crucial when it comes to the battles later on. As you can see, Enda just starting to slow that car down, a little dab of the foot brake. And finishes the run in style, Mike, but certainly the score going to be hurt by the errors on initiation.
Yeah, I'm not sure there if I'm right or wrong on this, but I think he had an up change there, shifting up a gear into outer zone 3, so interesting driving style there from India to get the wheel speed up. But you know, like you said, Eddie, I think he initiated way too early, maybe 20 feet too early, and he was on a big handbrake drag on the limiter there, trying to get the car down into that zone, and it should have hurt his score, I think.
Yeah, well, it did, yeah. 72 on the board for Enda Lyons. So despite those early scores in the 80s by David Garvey, Johnny Flynn and Luke Talley, a lot of drivers scoring in the 70s. What can Justice Aranskas do now as he makes his first attempt of the in his
we always speak about this car.
Presented BMW.
Such a distinctive little car, the little Beamer here in the hands of Justice. Always an aggressive driver as well. Let's see what he can do if he can tidy it up here and get himself into that all-important top 32 here, but he's a bit shy, Eddie, on the last zone there.
Yeah, another driver, Mike, who you'd have to say has the ability but just never shows it when it counts, you know, to its truest extent. And Justice Aranskas, he's going to go back into the pits. He's not going to be happy with that first run as we await the score to come through, but you know, missing a lot of zones. It's a 70.3 for Justice, and some work you would feel needs to be done there in order to have any chance of getting himself into the top 32. We move it on to Sean Watt now, who is doing it for the underpowered heroes in his E36 M3.
Yeah, he'd be praying for rain, Sean Watt, and look already there, maybe just getting caught out a little bit, and maybe just entered a little bit too early once again. You need the speed, you need the momentum to carry you to the outside of that first zone, and you almost need to hit the throttle in to keep you back on the track. So it's an interesting technique for the first corner. Sean Watt is a little bit shy there on 3 as well. Now gets the car slightly on the right line around the last corner, but he's going to have to do better on the second run, Ed. Yeah,
he is, and you can see him just kind of a shake of the head as he came past the judging tower here, just not happy with the run. 71.3 though, a decent score on the board for now.
It might see him in the show.
It might, but you know what, I think we are going to see those scores jumping up during the second half of qualifying. Now Adrienne Wheatley, good performance at round 1 in her rookie year in pro.
Our only female pro competitor, Ed, as well.
That's true, yes.
And a nice entry from Adrienne there, Eddie. Judges not going to penalise the cars for dropping a wheel on entry. It was happening last year as well, so that wheel dropped a little bit over the line on entry is not going to be penalised heavily, if at all. So bear that in mind, guys, if you're watching. And Adrienne is cool, calm and collected here behind the wheel, Ed.
Yeah, another nice line here from Adrienne. She's a very strong line driver. maybe lacks a little bit of that flair at times, Mike, that the judges like to see, but certainly in terms of the line, it's always very strong, and it's an 81.7, so a nice big first run from Adrienne Wheatley. Drops her into third position temporarily. She's going to go back into the pits, be delighted with that, and definitely you'd feel as though there's space for a few more points if she can come in a little bit hotter into the on the run up. I think there's definitely potential for a mid 80s to close to 90s.
There is definitely, but it was that quintessential banker lap, that safe lap to get you into the show. Now Darrell Barnett, who doesn't know the meaning of a safe lap, not too far from this track up here in County Down is Darrell Barnett, and a little bit of points left on the board there. Missed a lot of outer zone 1 there, missed the middle section of it, and he's going to have to tidy himself up here now. He's on that nice outside line, stays on that outside line around 3, and therefore gets the transition nicely into 4 and crosses the line. Just 4 clipping zones in this track, of course, but it is still highly technical. But we've seen in certain tracks in Watergrass Hill, for instance, 9 clipping points. We only have 4 zones here, so interesting track layout.
Certainly is. Score drops in rather for Darrell Barnett, 71.7 for him, and sees him just inside the top 10 for now. As we go back to the start line, where a man who was in a late practice incident, Adam Kelly, problems with the wiring and kill switch after the incident, but the team got that sorted. And again, just not getting the line right, Mike. It's going to really hurt the score here.
Yeah, a lot of drivers struggling with that entry until they maybe get that first qualifying lap nerves out of the system. Beautiful looking R33 skyline. Not awful common to see the R33 on the grid here in Ireland, but definitely a very, very well built one, and has all the horsepower there already. Lots of power in that car, but he did get caught out on entry and missed a lot of the first zone once again.
Yeah, an incredible build, that car. Definitely one of my favourite cars on the grid, albeit an R33, but it just goes to show they can look good. A 69.7 for Adam Kelly.
What are you saying about R33s, Eddie?
A lot of people don't like them, Mike.
All right.
I think they're
lovely as well.
But I particularly like that one, Mike.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
That's the point I'm making more than anything. So here we go. Damien McKernan now leaves the line. Nice weight transfer entry. Can he get the line right? He was nailing it in practice, so making that transition over into his qualifying run, and looking strong so far as we pick him up on the drone here if you're watching at home. And McKernan looks to take it to the wall, slows it down before picking up the speed again, getting hard on the accelerator, and gets himself across the line.
Yeah,
nice line, but maybe not as fluid through some of the points around the circuit as the judges would like to see.
Just another wild man behind the wheel. Always love seeing Damien McKiernan coming out, because you just know that you're in for an entertaining lap and a full throttle, full commitment lap. Yes, and indeed, Eddie, it looks like the judges liked it as well. What did he score, Ed?
Well, he's after going second, Mike, with an 83, so 83.7 for David Garvey in first position. Damien McKernan now in second with an 83. So scores starting to creep up as the man leaving your line now, Gary Dunn, a man I know very well, in the borrowed car from Andy Kenna. Struggling to get to grips with the car early on in practice, but the last few runs I saw him lay down were absolutely solid. And the man behind GDM Sport, the man who looks after my car and does an incredible job, but one of the nicest guys on the grid. But you know what? He can steer as well. A wealth of experience behind the wheel. Gary Dunn absolutely nailing that qualifying line so far and gets himself across the line. He's going to be delighted with that. I would love to see this man get the silverware that he so desperately deserves.
We're all our IS200 fans in the live chat, guys. Get in the live chat and big up the IS200 there. Standard 1G GE.
So I said to Gary Dunn, he better not get out-qualified by Luke Talley, and right now they are tied on scores with an 80.3, so an 80.3 for Luke Talley, an 80.3 for Gary Dunn, and a strong first run for him as we move back to the start line, where a man who's looking for better fortune at round 2 than he had at round 1 in the new 2JZ powered E36 wagon. Here comes Stephen Halferty, Mike.
Stephen Halferty is a man on a mission this season. Maybe didn't have the perfect round 1 because he did an engine change just before the first round. He always needed more horsepower. He always looked so good with M3 power in that BMW. Needed to step up. 2JZ this year. Maybe not perfectly comfortable with the car for the first round, but you know what? He's looking good this time, Eddie, and that was a fantastic lap. That was more Stephen Halferty than the first round, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the Stephen Halferty that we know, a very, very talented driver, and an 84 sees Stephen Halferty go top of qualifying temporarily at least, and that's more like it, as you said, Mike. As you say, a lot of people always said, what would Stephen Halferty be like if he had the machinery to back up the talent? Well, it looks like we're about to start finding out as they get rid of the round 1 gremlins from that car. We move it on to the start line, where Darragh McElroy now awaits his first run of qualifying, Mike.
He does indeed. And just as we wait for Darrell to get going, just back to Gary Dunn's lap there, Gary Dunn's lap in Andy Kenna's car, a standard 1G engine in that Altezza, in that IS200, completely standard.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable, yeah.
And you know,
just
guys,
goes to show what he's capable of.
It just goes to show what the engine is capable of exactly when you push it, when you drive it that hard. So crazy stuff. As we move it along, Darren McElroy is on the line. Not sure what the delay was, but we are going now, and he has left the line in the beautiful blue S13 180SX, flicks it in, and that's a nice entry, Eddie, but he does leave the zone very early once again.
Yeah, standard SR 2.2 in this one, Mike. So a lot of standard engines.
Standard 2.2 SR. Maybe he's
we have a little bit of a blind spot here, Mike, where we can't see exactly what's happening as they exit outer zone 2, and when a certain amount of time passes by, you know that something's gone wrong, and something has gone wrong here.
Yeah,
for Darragh McElroy.
We rely on the live stream. The judges have their own closed circuit cameras, closed loop cameras set up for that corner, but we do rely on the live stream here, Eddie, you and me, for that particular corner as well, because we do have.
So we're hearing a
unless
D-bead,
a D-bead. Oh wow, okay, so. Everybody's running low pressures. Maybe for qualifying it's not the best idea, but everybody runs low tyre pressures in order to find the grip, to make the tyre almost half flat under the wheel on the ground and increase the surface area and let the tyre move around a little bit on the rim and find the grip. If you go very low on tyre pressure, and especially if you're running quite wide wheels, it does run the risk of de-beading. We'll see more of that in the twin battles later on, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean the surface here isn't perfect, but it's not the worst in the world. So de-beads, you wouldn't see any obvious points where you'd say there could be a de-bead. But we go back to the start line now for Dean Byrne's first qualifying run, and the man, it's really coming for him here this weekend. Very fast, very happy with how he's driving this weekend. The car just really glides through the circuit, Mike. A lot of speed, but he gets it wrong.
And
he gets it all wrong.
You know, Eddie, I was just going to say after his run, what a beautiful entry that was from Dean. Perfect flick entry, got the car beautifully on angle, filled out all the zone consistently through the lines there, and unfortunately just lost it into outer zone 2 there, and maybe a little bit of overcommitment for a first qualifier there. Yeah,
well, one thing I learned very quickly yesterday, Mike, is that when you're a little bit offline on the outer extremities of this circuit, there's a lot of build-up of rubber and tyre beads, and once you hit those, if you're a little bit offline, you hit those little bits of rubber, you lose all grip. So was there a score?
Was there a score? Let's just see. Let's just double check.
For Dean Byrne, no, it's a 0 for Dean Byrne.
Yeah, and now we move it along to Jack Mawhinney on the line.
Sorry, correction, the score did drop in from our judges. It was a 55, so 55 just to be correct there before we move on.
You know what, Eddie? It might as well be a 0 because that is not going to qualify you, so that is it. Jack Mawhinney is in a borrowed car. Look at this, a little AE86. And I don't actually know much about this car, but it does sound like it's on ITBs. And it does very much sound naturally aspirated, so we got to get some info on this car for the second run. But what a fantastic sight and what a fantastic sounds to hear in Bishopscourt. A86 being put through its paces, clutch kicks, beautiful line there. Look at this in the borrowed car from Jack Mawhinney. What an aggressive driver. I was speaking with his dad Cedric yesterday. Unfortunately, their turbo BMW engine had a cracked crankshaft, Eddie. He sat into a borrowed Corolla. Couldn't be more different from a turbo BMW engined E46, and look at what he's just done.
Well, look at what he's just done is right, Mike. An 82.3 on the board for Jack Mawhinney sees him into 5th position, and I think he's going to be delighted with that in a car that he just pulled from the car park.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody just arrived up, I think, in their Road 86, had a cage in it, threw in the fire extinguisher, and off you go. So let's move it along. No time to dwell on that one. It's Nicky Davey, the Carrick Karting self-sponsored driver from County Sligo, firing the S15 into the first corner, Eddie, and that was a nice entry from Nicky Davey, looking strong here at round 2.
Yes, well, it is the question that has been on everybody's lips of late, Mike. What do the Davies do? And we are finding out that they go drifting, and from time to time they do it with style, and Nicky Davey crosses the line after an incredible first run.
There surely is a Netflix series in this. What do the Davies do?
There has to be. There has to be.
Well, we have Nicky Davey, and of course we have Dean Davey and young Jake Davey as well competing in IDS simultaneously this year, so it's always an expensive weekend for the Davies.
Yeah, so the next question is, what do the Davies score? And Nicky Davey scores a 72.3, so 72.3 sees him 12th temporarily, but you know what, Mike? Look, we haven't seen a whole lot of scores go into the 80s. It looks like, it's Gary Dunn in 8th position, so 8 drivers in the 80s. But I think we're going to see a lot more of them. But Sean Owen Curry coming in hot, coming in fast.
Yeah, big understeer there, though, Eddie. A big flick entry from Sean Owen Curry and just backs out of it, and that's going to be a 0. And You have to go for the banker lap in the first qualifier already, because now Sean Curry is under huge pressure after that crazy entry.
Yeah, under severe pressure, and of course it was Sean Owen Curry who had that contact with Adam Kelly in the last few runs of practice, right at the end of outer zone 1, so just maybe struggling with getting the entry right here, maybe just not adjusting his pace correctly.
And if you guys watched qualifying yesterday for Pro 2 action and you're looking at Pro today and you're saying Pro is actually a little bit sketchier in terms of line than Pro 2, you're actually correct, but that is down to the tyre. These tyres make it so difficult to drive these cars on, but they make the cars so fast, which is what you need for twin battles, so therefore you need the cars to be fast, and they are so difficult to drive compared to the Pro 2 cars. So if it looks a bit sketchier, it's because it is, because the cars are absolute animals. But look at this, a guy not struggling with his car. Look at the flick entry here from young Owen Magner from Castletown Roach in County Cork, Killavullen, County Cork, in fact. Really pretty much across the road from James Dean. Something in the water down there, Eddie, and it looks to be paying off for Owen.
Yeah, so I was speaking to Jack Shannon about this young man, and Jack Shannon thinks that he is one of the stars of the future. He said if you look at the way that Owen Magner is able to go from pretty much no driving in the off season straight back into competition and put in like 96-point runs. Well, he didn't put in a 96 on this occasion, but it's a 91.3. Owen Magner goes top of qualifying and sets the bar high early on. If he can get some consistency with this car, not breaking down on him, he's going to be a contender for the championship this year, mark my words.
Yeah, fantastic drive there from Owen Magner, just over the road from the Shanahans as well, so something definitely in the water. Speaking of James Dean as well, I got a Snapchat video from James Dean yesterday in the middle of the day, in the middle of the MotoGP grid for the sprint race, so that's where being a drifter gets you these days, right in the middle of the Marquez brothers on the grid.
I'd say that has you very jealous. So we move it on. Jason McInerney now, coming in hot and fast, Mike. And we spoke about him changing that car for this season's Pro competition, and it's absolutely running to perfection here. Look at that fast, snappy transition. Oh, but he shuts it down just at the end, Mike. Is that problems with the car? It looks as though it is.
Oh, yeah, we just heard groans from the judges there. They liked that one. I really liked that lap. There was just a little bit of a waver on the transition between 3 and 4 there, but apart from that, Jason McInerney looking so good. I'm a big fan of his driving style. He was so good when he had just a naturally aspirated BMW engine in that BMW, its own engine, in fact, surprisingly, and had to step up to the Pro class because he made it out of Pro 2 rookie and out of Pro 2 outright, and had to do the 2J thing, but unfortunately the 2J thing maybe right now not working out so great, because there's definitely a mechanical wrong with that car and he shut it down.
Yeah, so unfortunate to see, and it's almost, commentators curse, just as we were talking about how the engine or how that car has been running, and now you see bonnet up. It's never a good sign, Mike. So hopefully whatever it is, Jason and the team can get it sorted for their second run of qualifying here, but another couple of feet and at least there'll be a score on the board. Yeah,
absolutely, another couple of feet, Ed, and at least he'd have that first qualifier and the knowledge that he's in the show and get the car ready for the second qualifier, or even if he's in the show, just sit out his second qualifier, get the car ready for battles later on. But it just didn't happen there for Jason McInerney. Absolute gentleman outside the car as well, so hopefully he gets that one sorted ASAP. And of course, as you mentioned, Eddie, we are in reverse championship order, guys, so the laps will be coming in thick and fast from here on out according as we go down the championship order and get to those top drivers. And we mentioned, Eddie, you get qualifying points, you get championship points, for qualifying. You can get 11 points for qualifying first. You also get an easier battle bracket in the top 32 if you qualify highly.
Potentially,
yes, exactly. Potentially.
On paper, certainly.
On paper, exactly. But you still want to give yourself...
Sorry, in theory, it's definitely
in
supposed
theory.
to be easier.
And we actually saw the first place qualifier taken out by the 32nd place qualifier in our first battle yesterday, so it doesn't always work out, but you still want to get up there. And also, and we'll reference Drift Masters on this one, Eddie, the higher qualifier in the battles has an inherent advantage because he leads first, and then he knows when it's his turn to chase how hard he chases, because sometimes you can lead first, the lower qualifying chase driver can make a mistake behind you, and you know that you don't have to chase that hard. You have a little bit of a chance to maybe hang back a little bit, don't take any risks, put in a safe chase, and you're going to progress to the next battle. So being the higher qualifier also gives you that advantage throughout your battle bracket.
Yeah. Now the only time that can become a disadvantage would be where the conditions change. So if it can change,
Exactly.
it changes from, and more so maybe in Mondello Park, but certainly on this circuit as well. If the conditions change and it goes from completely dry to completely wet, and drivers haven't had an opportunity to test the conditions, now the lead driver can be at a little bit of a disadvantage because they could be the first driver to spin, the first driver to score a 0, and all of a sudden be at a disadvantage, whereas the chase driver would have an option just to hold back. The danger there, of course, would be holding back for the chase driver. If the lead driver doesn't spin, now all of a sudden they've left a huge gap. So there's a lot can go on, and a lot of tactics need to be or come into it when you're deciding how you're going to run from lead to chase, particularly when the conditions change. But we would be hoping that it will stay fully dry, Mike, all the way through, because let's face it, drifting is a lot more of a spectacle when the conditions are perfect and dry, like they are today so far.
It is, exactly. That was a really good point actually about conditions changing in the battle, especially Mondello Park, when you actually don't want to lead in the first one because you don't know what's going to happen. It's easier to chase in and just gauge the guy in front of you, so that's a good point. But overall it is an advantage to qualify higher, so you want to be getting in those high qualifying scores in order to have that information from your spotter and how hard to push on the second run. So let's see what the situation is here, if we can get a clean track. And the leaf blower, I see the marshals using a leaf blower there. I would like to let the crowd know as well, and all the people watching live stream, that Richie Kelleher, our head track marshal, woke up a lot of the marshals this morning with that exact leaf blower, went into their bedrooms with the leaf blower on his back, started up petrol leaf blower and woke them up with the leaf blower. So yeah, that was 6:30 this morning, also woke me up, which was fantastic. So if I look tired,
health and safety is a priority here.
it is, of course, in the drifting, yeah, and that is absolutely true. So
it looks as though Ben Rogers has been given the orders to warm his tyre. Here's a guy, Mike, that his debut season in pro, but he looks so confident. I think this track suits his driving style as well. I think we could see Ben Rogers going really strongly here. Moves himself towards the line and it looks like he is ready to go.
Yeah, I just briefly met him for a second in the pits. He looks relaxed, Eddie. He looks like he's having fun.
Yeah, he's relaxed, he's confident, and why shouldn't he be? Because his driving always does the talking. And Ben Rogers now, look at this big flick entry from Rogers. Fills that first zone nicely as he gets ready now to throw it onto the wall and get the car settled. Can he get it nicely through here? He certainly can. And the rest of the track just flows here. If he can get that line right as he makes the switch, he certainly does it nice and early. Judge is really going to like this one, Mike. I think this one, if he can finish it, is going to go well up there, and it could threaten that 91.3 from Owen Magner. Really nice run.
Yeah, really like that one. Doing everything right there, not taking any huge risks, but just doing everything bang on what the judges said.
Yeah, jumps into second position with an 89, so just not enough to outdo Owen Magner, but knocking on the door of the 90s on your first run in qualifying, I think he's going to be delighted with that start to round 2. So back on the start line.
And of course, Eddie, this is going to get exciting for the second round of qualifying because it does become knockout qualifying. So we'll have those drivers sitting in 32nd position who will be hanging on for dear life, and they could get knocked out. So what's going on, Eddie?
So we were due to have Lee McFadden, but it looks as though he's not here, and it's Harry Kerr leaving the line. So Harry Kerr leaves the line. We'll try and update you with what happened to Lee McFadden as Harry Kerr now makes a very aggressive snap to angle, throws it in hot and fast, just as you would expect. A man that was hotly in contention for a championship here last year. He'd like nothing more than to get himself back on the podium here at round 2 of the Irish Drift Series, brought to you by Lucky Day Competitions. And a man who'd be no stranger to driving this car around this circuit. Harry Kerr gets himself across the line.
Yeah, second place in the championship last year, as you said, Eddie. He gave Alan Hines a long, hard fight for that championship. Didn't take it ultimately, but the Ballymoney man just up the road in Ballymoney, well, I guess he's an hour and 3/4 up the road, but another Northern Irish driver there, Harry Kerr, absolute crazy man behind the wheel, gentleman outside it, and always very entertaining.
Yeah, and a big score for Harry Kerr. A 90.3 sees him into second position, which drops Ben Rogers down to third. We go back to the start line.
And Lee McFadden has engine problems, does hope to be out for his second run.
Well, man, it doesn't have any engine problems at the moment. Brendan Burke now.
Yeah,
looked
this
a
is
bit wild this morning, Mike.
This is another standard SR20, I think, Eddie.
Yeah, lots of those on the grid here in Pro, surprisingly.
Completely standard SR20. It just happens to be.
It puts on the anchors, too much angle into it, and you know what? I haven't in any of the practice runs I've seen from Brendan Burke so far this weekend. It just hasn't been working out for him. Maybe not gelling with the track. I'm not quite sure. It'd be interesting to pick his brain on it as he does the standard 360 as he crosses the line. Not going to be the run that's going to get him into the show here, you'd feel, Mike.
Yeah, maybe not quite a standard engine in that car after all, Eddie, but super responsive SR 2.2 there, I think. And Brendan Burke, interesting fact, as I said at the last round, I thought Brendan Burke had a drift, and you know what, I didn't do a great job of it based on that lap, but I'm sure that he's going to come out in the second one and do a great job himself. And do we have a score for Brendan? Brendan Burke scores, if we can find him on the sheet here. He scores a 51, Eddie, so unfortunately that is as good as a 0 for Brendan Burke. He will need to improve if he wants to make the show. Now a guy who will be looking to do much better than that is last year's Pro 2 champion and came 4th in Pro last year as well from making it up from the Pro 2 competition. It's Kuba, it's Jakub Kryszczak.
Yeah, Jakub really looked like he was going to take home 2 championships last year, but came down to the wire and he just missed out on it, not getting it done in the final round. But he's back here now, his first full season as a pro driver in the Irish Drift Series, and a man with incredible ability. Look at the line from Jakub Kryszczak as he gets himself across the line. And you know,
tries to kill his 2J.
Yeah, like Jakub, you've a whole day of drifting. You know, don't blow the engine just yet. And 88 on the board for him, so a nice start to qualifying.
And what a success story Kuba is. Came over to Ireland over a decade ago, set up his own installation company. I think he has up to 20 employees now. He's working very hard and he's currently living his dream, a Pro 2 champion and hoping to become a Pro champion. So
yeah, certainly potential for a pro championship, but you know, not the start to the season that he would have wanted, and it's all important at every round. But here we go, Dara Spencer, a man who'll be looking to reignite his charge at a championship, the Short King in the MTM E46. And Dara, a very aggressive driver again, and a guy who, well, he's a former champion, but he'd love to do it with the likes of Dwayne McKeever on the grid here. And
yeah,
very fluid style, very fast, snappy transition as he fills that final outer zone and gets himself across the line.
Yeah, not sure if you guys picked up on that, but a lot of left foot brake there from Dara Spencer, locking up the inside wheel to stable up the car. And 6th place in the championship so far, Eddie, and he wants to improve big time, but he does have the ability to win this championship.
He certainly does. His ability to go a lot higher within the score that he's after putting in an 81.3 sees him just down in 11th, a little bit down the order from where he'd like to be.
I like that one, Eddie, but the judges not like it so much.
Yeah, but as you say, Mike, maybe just you know, the judges maybe not liking the use of the front brake. But here we go, next driver on the grid, Fionn Roach in his freshly rebuilt S14. Jack Shannon doing a lot of work just to get this car back up to specs. And Fionn, I heard talks that he might be looking to sell this car, but maybe if a good weekend here behind the wheel might see him change his mind on that one.
Yeah, well, you're speaking
you another driver dabbing the foot brake just to settle the car and get it just around that 3rd outer zone, and across the line goes Fionn Roach.
Yeah, he's having fun. He kept the throttle pin there past the line, always a good sign. Speaking living the dream, Fionn Roach out in Drift Masters in Spain in round 1 last weekend in his GT86, back up here in Northern Ireland in Bishopscourt in his beautiful S14 for IDS round 2.
So score drops in for Fionn Roach. It is a 77, so not the score he was looking for. Now Paulius Judicious, well, he was 4th at round 1, a dream weekend for Paulius, and looking to try and replicate that or even go one better this weekend, but not the start to the weekend he would have wanted. Big impact with the wall on Friday, and now on his qualifying run just not getting the entry right, missing the full outer zone for the first section. Starting to pick it up here now, but all important points lost at the start of the run, so it's not going to be expecting to see this.
So it's Paulius is delicious as Judicious, Eddie, with trying to put in a delicious lap, but it was only an alright lap.
So obviously a name that's that's difficult to find other words that rhyme with it, but you have a list of them here, Mike.
I have a list of them. It's delicious, nutritious, suspicious, prodigious.
Save some of them for the second run.
I've got 4 left, so yeah, let's save some.
So 3rd place on the podium at round 1, young Jack Caldwell. Well, he may be only, 15 years of age, 14 years of age. Well, this young man is incredible talent behind the wheel, and he will be looking to go a little bit higher on the podium this weekend if he can. Fires it into the first corner really fast in his incredible S15, a car driven by his brother in recent years, or years gone by rather, not so much recent years. But what an incredibly talented family. And look how smooth he is, Mike. Filling all those outer zones, perfect transitions, and Jack Caldwell gets it across the line with his first run done in qualifying.
Yeah,
As the clouds in the distance start to look a little bit threatening, Mike, could we see changes to weather? Could it be that it's important to have a big run done?
It could be, yeah. You could need to get that run done on the first qualifying 180 because it is given to smatter a little bit of rain here. And I saw actually Jack Caldwell having some rally success as well there recently, just on Facebook this morning, I think. So the Caldwell family there, backed by Aidan, of course, a fantastic motorsport family. And young Jack is a huge talent.
Yeah, well, a huge talent he may be, but an 80.7, we say only because he won't be happy with that.
Lots of scores in the 80s, isn't there? Just early 80s right now.
We've got love for you if you can score in the 80s, Mike. But Jack Caldwell will be looking to improve that and bump that up to a 90. Now, the man who a lot of people, he's very quickly becoming a fan favourite here in Ireland. Ryusei Akiba.
Second place in the championship, Eddie. This is going to be a big one.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. Love his driving style, and this track really going to lend itself towards his flair, his big angle, fast through the course. Look at the speed that he's able to carry, Mike. Dab of the handbrake as he comes into that first decel zone.
Yeah, just leave zone 2 there a little bit early. The drone caught it there. He didn't fill out all of zone 2, but I like the entry, so it's going to be still a good score, I think.
Yeah, but of course, leaving that zone early does set you up nicely for the wall run there at zone 3, so not sure if that'll hurt the score too much, but we will find out. But it was otherwise a very strong run from Ryusei. Will it threaten the scores in the 90s? It won't, Mike. An 85.7. Still a very good score for Ryusei.
Should see him in battle action.
Should be safe, Mike. Should be safe.
Should be safe, yeah. But Eddie, very Japanese style entry there. Not sure where he got that. He must have picked up a few option DVDs or something, but very Japanese style flick entry
strange,
there.
Yeah, strange.
Strange
that he'd have that sort of style now.
Wherever he saw that, yeah.
I hurled with his father, and he definitely didn't get it from his father anyway.
Well, Dwayne McKeever's on the line, and he is going to do a Japanese style entry. He's very much a Northern Irish man. He's one of the prides of our nation here, along with James Dean, the Shanahans, Darren McNamara, if you're going back, and all those fantastic export drivers we've had. But look at this from McKeever, flicks in the Strom Wheels S15 into the first corner. He is the Northern Smoke Machine, and let's see what he can do. Can he top qualifying, Ed?
Well, you'd expect that he can, Mike, because that's generally what Dwayne McKeever does. He's very fast through the circuit, and again, a lot of use of the front brake there just to slow that car. And will that hurt the score from Dwayne McKeever? The score of 91.3 to beat from Owen Magner. It should be up there.
Yeah, you just picked up
Will
on
it
it.
Break into 90s though.
I think he just wavered a little bit coming into zone 3 there, so maybe not a perfect lap in the eyes of the judges, but still should be a very good one.
Yeah, it certainly is a very good one in the eyes of the judges. A 93.3 for Dwayne McKeever. He does go top for the moment, just 2 points better than Owen Magner. That is the that is the last of our first runs completed, so we will now go back to our Pro 2 drivers and we will give them all a second run, Mike. But a 93.3 from Dwayne McKeever sees him taking first place in qualifying so far, followed very closely by young Owen Magner with a 91.3. Harry Kerr in third position with a 90.3, and Ben Rogers in fourth with an 89, and in fifth position Jakub Kuschek with an 88. Right now the cutoff, Brendan Burke with a score of 51. Remember, Mike, only 40 drivers on the grid today, okay? We've lost one or two of those due to mechanicals.
Yeah, we have 36 drivers actually scoring.
The scores to get yourself into the top 32 could be reasonably low.
Yeah.
You may see a score in the 70s getting you into the top 32.
Absolutely, yeah. I would say it's very, very possible, Ed, exactly, yeah. But the scores are going to get better now, theoretically at least. So I do expect that cut-off zone of 51 to improve significantly.
This is where a good spotter is going to be very important for our drivers, letting them know where they stand, letting them know what they need to do if they are down the order or outside that top 32. How much do you really need to push in order to get a score that's going to qualify you into the battles? And as we know, Mike, a lot of drivers come alive in the battles. Some drivers like Dwayne McKeever, they're good in qualifying, they're good in battles. Some drivers are only good in battles. Some drivers, they're only good in qualifying. So it takes all sorts to make up a grid here at the Irish Drift Series.
It does indeed. Some drivers are qualifying experts, as you said, and they might not be the best chase drivers, but their lead runs are always on point. So it's very interesting. According as you get to know the drivers over the years as well, you get to know their little nuances and their advantages and disadvantages, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you that to you guys according as the battles progress. Looking forward to it, Ed. I think there is still a little bit of rain forecast. We can still see the clouds in the distance here as we look kind of to the north here at the east side of County Down in Northern Ireland. We look north and we can see some clouds in the distance. We're avoiding them so far, but who knows?
You've said that now with such confidence, and you don't have a compass in front of you. You are able to point north, point south from where we are. That's impressive now, Mike.
I'll get my compass here now.
If you're right.
Oh, yes, Eddie, look at this. North. Bang on. Because Eddie, the beach is that way.
I am seriously impressed.
The beach,
oh, you know where the beach is?
Well, the beach is that way, and the beach is to our east, so this has to be north, man. It's easy.
You're here at a long weekend, you're here on holidays, and you've been nipping over to the beach for a little bit of sunbathing.
I've been nipping out for a bit of skinny dipping, yeah, exactly.
I have to say now, Mike, I was like, he is talking through his bum here, and that is so impressive.
yeah, that's north, man. Yeah, that's up along. That's north there. So
you can see our start line marshal taking a seat there. He's trying to take in the sunshine as well. And
we have a big fan here as well to blow away the tire smoke. If the live stream camera can push, that's it. If the live stream camera can push over to the left and catch the wind turbine there, if our cameraman can hear us, we've got a huge wind turbine here to the left hand side, specially designed to blow away the smoke as well from the cars.
It's really handy.
It's very handy. They put up a huge wind turbine especially for this job, just to get.
It's actually becoming such a common backdrop for drift events or drift
between Kerry and here.
Between Kerry and here, yeah. So we just needed one or two of them in Mondello Park maybe, and
we need a heater in Mondello Park and a roof.
Well, that's for sure, yeah.
a kind of a big smoking area in Mondello Park with huge heaters and enclosed spaces. That's what we need there. So 2 rounds in, guys, to a 5-round championship. Each round so important. It's 20% of your year's score. So, Eddie, you could see a driver almost taking a championship without winning a round here, because if they get a couple of, if they get 3 or 4 podiums, they're hanging around there. Consistency in a 5-round championship can be so important.
It really is. It's crucial. And this venue was round 3 last year, I believe, and it was essentially, what they'd refer to in golf as moving day. And a lot of drivers knocking themselves out of championship contention. Of course, is a little bit more room for error as it's only round 2 this season, but as you say, Mike, you do want that consistency right throughout the season, and dropping out in either qualifying or top 32 will
as we
really
see our freestyle area.
Will really hurt a driver's championship run. We saw, I believe Jack Mooney knocked himself out of contention for the championship here last year. So as you say, even though it's early doors, they'll all be looking for a big result here, and you want to be looking at least the top 8, top 4 in order to get yourself or keep yourself in the hunt for a championship.
Exactly, Eddie. So IDS this season is brought to you by Red Bull. Lucky Day Competitions are our title sponsors, and guys, check out that Red Bull event just announced in Spike Island in Cork. If you haven't already seen it, it's going to be absolutely crazy. It's a Red Bull drift pursuit event on an island which used to be a jail, so be sure to check that out. Tickets are very limited, so grab your tickets quick. It's going to be crazy. Along with that, we are sponsored by ECU Master, G&D Tire and Service Centre, Yugen Factory, TS Drift Days, driftmagazine.eu, Strom Wheels, Turn Distribution, Nisuba, Group D, CDM Sport and Shift AM. So guys, as we always say, be sure to support those companies. They support Irish drifting and make this championship possible. So if you need or want any of the products or services that those sponsors provide, please support them back, because they make this championship possible and keep Irish drifting going, which is a very good thing, as does Kieran Hines and the larger Hines family, doing great things thankfully, and keeping this sport alive and very well in this country.
When they're not making beans?
When they're not making beans, exactly. They've plenty, if they can get a hold on the market and get those bachelors crowd out of there, they're away with it. But yeah.
See, the bachelors lads now, if they got married, that would probably knock them off their perch.
That's it, exactly.
They'd be married. We are back on the start line, ready to go with Jake McElveen, a 74.3 on his first run. He's inside the top 32, Mike, at the moment. Does he need to go much harder? Well, you'd want to see him go a little bit further up the order to feel a little bit safer, and of course get those so-called easier battles. And Jake McElveen, well, you know what, Mike? Not all the drivers from Pro 2 will use the semi-slicks. Not exactly sure what Jake McElveen has chosen to use, if he's still on his road tyres from yesterday, but that was a really strong second run. Will it be enough to improve on his first run? It absolutely is. A 91.7 for the Pro 2 driver. Jake McElveen goes second to only Dwayne McKeever.
Pro 2 Junior driver, Eddie. Pro 2 Junior. What a crazy lap. I can't believe what we just saw. Absolutely nuts. But we can't dwell on it, Eddie. There's another car coming.
Here we go. Dylan Wilson, the Turkey fighter, in the 76 on his first run. Can he now match or better what young Jake McElveen has done Well, he's certainly coming for it. As we said, things would hot up in the second runs here in qualifying. These drivers have been driving here, Mike, since Friday. They know the track inside out. And this is where the pressure's off for these youngsters. Should be safe inside the top 32, but he wants to get an improvement on that 76 for Dylan Wilson. Will it be that improvement that he's looking for as we wait for that judge's score to drop in? It is an improvement, an 81.3.
Yeah, good improvement there for Dylan Wilson. He needed that to go up the bracket. And just back to our Heinz thing there, I'm just laughing at ourselves there, to be honest, because we have viewers obviously all over the world, and if they're not familiar with the various beans brands here, we get Heinz and Batchers over here, so they're probably saying, what are these guys on about?
They'd probably be saying that anyway, even if they were familiar. Here we go. Luke Talley sits on an 80.3 on his first run. He's tied with the man who built this car, Gary Dunn, but that's not going to be improvement, Mike, because he dips out of outer zone 1. And Luke Talley, unfortunately, not going to be an improvement, but in fairness, let's face it, he looks safe to be inside top 32. He will have a battle later on this afternoon in Pro. It's a dream weekend for Luke Talley in only the second competitive event behind the wheel of this car. And with the exception of the entry, I mean, that was a pretty strong run.
Yeah, he might still
good
improve.
Consistency. Such a consistent driver is Luke.
He might still improve, Eddie. I mean, the judges have a set system for where you are in relation to the clipping zone and how many points you're deducted. So Luke Talley, I think, knowing that system, he might still have an improvement in him.
No,
possibly.
it's not going to be a 68. So yeah, you are right in what you're saying, Mike. But just as I say, on this occasion, it's not that improvement that Luke Talley was looking for. He's down in 17th position. That's where he will stay.
Look at this now, Eddie, on the line. Dave Garvey, the Kilkenny man, is leaving the line in the brand new PS13. Just over 700 brake horsepower, 2 JZ power, built at Group D. Where I work every day, I see this car every day. He came up here last weekend practicing it. He brought the car back down to Group D for a check over and then brought the car back up to Northern Ireland. So that is absolutely crazy commitment from David Garvey.
Yeah, if you're interested in seeing more on this car as well, you can check out Darren McNamara's page on YouTube. There's a build series on this car. Very interesting to see how a pro spec car like this is, comes together. And well,
I usually just hit my head off the spoiler or something when I'm lifting boxes.
Yeah, you don't really need to watch it, Mike. You don't need to go onto the YouTubes to watch it, but it is an improvement on the score.
It's in my way usually.
For Garvey, it's an 84, so he moves himself slightly up the order. 83.7, 84.7, two very consistent scores inside the top 10. Garvey back with a bang.
So Mark McKevitt now is on a 0 here, guys, on the first run. Remember, very wild first run from Mark. Let's see if he can improve it to better entry at a very big angle though, huge angle, and has to dial it off and pushes himself, almost hits the wall, pushes himself out of zone 1 as a result. So big mistakes once again from Mark here. Yeah,
and as I said, Mike, this is where it's really important that the driver has good communication with their spotter. The scores are not exactly what we'd consider high. The threshold is quite low for trying to qualify into a top 32 here in a pro class, and McKevitt maybe pushing a little bit harder than he needed to be. It's a 59 right now. It has him just inside. He's in 30th position, so it is enough.
But it's going to be a long one.
If that was a 65, 67, that would have seen him a little bit further up the order.
Yeah,
and a little bit safer.
7 drivers under him who can still knock him out. So I see Archie Sugar-Harmer there in the chat on the live stream, and a fantastic driver himself, of course. Good to see you in the chat. So here we along, Johnny Flynn.
Yeah, Johnny Flynn on his second run. It was an 82.3, so he's right up the order. Is Johnny Flynn. He sits in 11th position. He'll be looking to try and improve on that, and of course, as we said, Johnny hasn't had the most amount of luck behind the wheel of this S14 in recent events. Looking for a turn of fortune here. A little bit late on the transition there, just costing him on the final line through that final outer zone. Mike, that 360 over the line is something that I really need to learn how to do that.
You just go nuts really and hold the steering wheel where it is, then leave it go at the right time, and it just all happens.
And it's an 85.
Then you break your tie rods.
Oh, well, maybe I won't do it. So it is a slight improvement for Johnny Flynn.
Eddie, look at
85. Yeah, we're going to have to turn on the wipers here in the tower, Mike, because the patter of rain is starting to pit-pat on our windows here.
And we see wipers on the line. This is not what the drivers want to see. The rain is coming down here in Bishopscourt, guys. Alan O'Loughlin leaves the line, and he's in a little bit of trouble here with his score already. He's on a 63.3, but look at the entry. He does a much better job in the rain, Eddie, than he did in the dry. That is crazy.
I think Alan O'Loughlin is getting this track just at the right moment. He's got the entry done. The rest of it he can negotiate as it comes.
Can he hang on here, Eddie?
I
He
think
had a
he can.
perfect entry. This could be a huge score for Alan O'Loughlin. Like you said, Eddie, he might just be after hitting. Oh, maybe just loses a bit of grip and drops a wheel around the last zone. Maybe that rain had just fallen.
Look at the change, Mike, in the last
Wow.
30 seconds.
Wow, absolutely crazy.
I think
guys.
he's got in just at the right time. It's going to be an improvement in the score. It's a 77 from that 63 on his first run. Bumps him right up the order. He sits now in 20th position. Safety, you'd have to feel, for the top 32 as conditions now are turned on their head. And
This
if
is
these
crazy.
drivers don't have a tyre pressure gauge with them, they may not even be able to change the pressures of the tyres as they sit on the line.
And look at this, Damien Wilkinson, guys, sits in 32nd position with a 54.3, and these conditions have absolutely flipped on their head right now. I would not want to be Damien Wilkinson right here. The
No,
pressure.
certainly not. Well, he's leaving the line mark, or
Wow.
he's leaving the line, Mike, and he has it all to do. He's not going to know what's going to happen here. Tyre pressures could be all over the place, but it's actually a better entry than he had to try, but he just can't make it work, Mike.
Oh my word,
And
Damien.
it's amazing just how something as simple as a small drop of rain can just make you look so amateur in a matter of moments. It's so difficult, so frustrating for our drivers, and unfortunately,
That's Ireland.
that's Ireland. Yeah. Unfortunately for Damien Wilkinson, that's going to make for a nervous wait for him, as the likes of Brendan Burke, Darragh McElroy, Sean Owen Curry, Jason McInerney, if he can get the car going, Lee McFadden again as well. Didn't get a run in on the first half of qualifying. All those drivers could knock him out of top 32. And what I will say is, with the changing conditions and with the mechanical problems that we've seen, there's not too many drivers that can actually knock him out of that spot.
No,
So,
but we still have
we
Sean
could-
Owen Curry, Jason McInerney, Darragh McElroy, Brendan Burke is underneath him, so he's in a dangerous place, Ed. In a dangerous place. Now we move it along. David Curtis should be safe for battle action, but still he wants to improve. He's not got a huge score, it's a 74.3. And you know what, Eddie? This could be important to get a sighter lap in before the battles. You want to use this as a practice lap also for your battles later on. Quick entry there from Curtis. Just about tidies it up as we get the live stream camera cleaned off for a second.
Yeah, now I think importantly here for Curtis, he may not be aware of this, but he is safe for the battles with the score from his first run. So that will see him into the top 32. As you say, Mike, this will be handy as a sight lap essentially, and a little bit of practice for what may be to come in the battles later on if the rain doesn't shift and clear. But of course, these guys did get some time yesterday when conditions were, very torrential to practice, so they are familiar with the track in the wet as well.
They are indeed, yeah, but you still want to just, rubber gets laid down, you still want to just use that qualifier as a little bit of a gauge for your battles later on, especially if you're leading. Like you said, it can be a disadvantage if you're not used to the conditions, so
for sure.
they'll
And of course,
definitely want to bring
the cars have been set up. Anybody that's out gridded now, the car is set up for dry conditions as well, so there is that. Now we're trying to see, it makes it a lot more difficult for us to see who it is on the line.
And the live stream people can see our beautiful judge there, Tomas Falvey, as well as Tom Murphy. But you see all hell breaking loose here behind me. That's because people are running in every direction here in Bishopscourt. It has literally turned into monsoon conditions in the space of 1 minute here. Absolutely crazy stuff. The rain is streaming down the window in front of us here. We have our track controller Sean Healy running around the place trying to tie stuff down and things. So we're possibly gonna have a break in action for a second, according as things are tied down, not to blow away, and things are waterproofed. Obviously, there's a lot of electronic gear to make this live stream possible, and just to make a drift of in possible. So crazy stuff here, Eddie, in the space of literally 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's all changed here, and you can see now there's going to be so much electricity generated by that fan, Mike, because you can see why they put it here now, because it's just gone. It's like a monsoon.
Yeah, she's that wind turbine there that we jokingly say is a fan for blowing the tyre smoke away. She's going well now, so she's making a lot of power.
Yeah, there'll be no concerns with tyre smoke now. So
no, absolutely crazy stuff, and it was forecast, Eddie. We got absolutely soaked here yesterday evening. We came down out of the tower here, guys, and there was literally an inch and a half of water running at the bottom of the steps. We had to just walk through it to get to the podium. Absolutely soaked, and it was given today as this, then sunshine, maybe a bit back to this, then sunshine again. So it's going to be all drama, Eddie, and you know what? I missed the driving, I missed it a lot, but sometimes it's a little bit better to be up here.
yeah, well, certainly in this container makeshift tower that we have here, rather than the tent, I think if we were in our usual tent, Mike, we'd be getting blown away. So I'm definitely appreciative of the
People battening down the hatches here around the city. And yeah, you would be appreciative of it. You've driven in these conditions yesterday. Well, you had alternator trouble in your very nice 180SX, I have to say, and you unfortunately didn't have any practice laps. You drove it in a borrowed car in crazy conditions, and you know what it's like more than me.
I was fortunate enough that the 2 runs that I did were dry. Although I kind of felt as though if it was wet, maybe I might have managed it a little bit better, but maybe not. I think with the wet, you can't.
Racing driver.
Nearly even harder to see the entry.
Racing driver 101 excuses there, Eddie.
As I get
felt up.
sexually assaulted.
Completely.
With a camera on me, so there's
evidence. It happened to me yesterday
yes.
with Kieran Hines, actually, so I have that on him now forever. So
we're a close-knit
we might get a pay rise, Eddie. Might get a pay rise out of this.
I doubt it. I think if we threaten legal action, they'll send Richie down to us. So
they will, exactly. So I'm going to open up the live stream here on my phone, guys, just to jump in on some comments here. So get in the chat, guys, and let us know where you're watching from as well. Obviously, this is only qualifying yet. We're gridding the drivers for top 32 action, and we will have a bigger crowd watching for the battles as per usual. But we are here in qualifying, and we do have the top drivers in the country out here vying for their place in the top 32. So the full Irish Gary was in the chat yesterday as well. He was saying it's only a sun show. Get the cameraman a live vest as well. Hello from RDS. Hello Johnny K. Hello from IDS, in fact. And yeah, guys, keep the comments coming in. Lots of support there for Ryusei Kiba as well, and Harry as well, Harry Kerr. So lots of people getting involved in the comments here in IDS. So keep them coming, guys, and we will jump in and out of them as we get a chance throughout the day. So Eddie, you know, we're 2/3 of the way through qualifying, I would say, exactly. Anything standing out for you so far? I mean, McKeever always looks good. Do you see anybody beating him? Surprise, like our top 2 championship drivers looking very, very good. But do you see any surprises coming up? Anybody to watch so far?
Yeah, look, I think McKeever, wet or dry, is always going to be. Look, he's doing this longer than a lot of his competitors are alive. So I mean, think about that.
True.
So
True.
The amount of experience that man has is it's going to be hard for anybody to take him down. I think you got to look at the stories. It's the emerging talent. I think when you look at the Irish Drift Series and the future of the sport, and we've talked about it. We always talk about it, but Irish drivers have gone all across the world and they've made a name for themselves. We always rank in Drift Masters in terms of the nationalities as the leading nation in terms of the scoreboard. It's kind of like the Constructors' Championship that you'd have in Formula 1.
Yeah, one of the leading nations to feed the international series like Drift Masters.
But when you look at the
FD.
likes of the standard, and you know what, it's interesting. It's different names. Okay, so this weekend it's Jake McElveen, Owen Magner coming through in his first season as a rookie driver. These young guys are coming through the ranks. Ben Rogers. We've talked about the Davies, the young Davies,
absolutely
incredible talents.
Harry
Daniel
Kerr,
Devine.
Harry Kerr just back from Oman, fantastic driver.
Yeah, look, Harry Kerr, absolutely an established driver. So not so much surprising. But,
yeah, I guess.
But he's definitely one to be a championship contender. Obviously, you have Fionn Roach there, down the order after his first run, but certainly has the ability to go and put in a huge run. Johnny Flynn right up there with an 85 on his first run, so that's great to see. Ryusei Kiba has those important championship points from the first round that he will need to be trying to mind that and keep a Dwayne McKeever on a tight leash. Essentially, he won't want McKeever to get away from him. But if there is a man on the grid that can take down Dwayne McKeever, you'd have to feel as though Ryusei Kiba is certainly one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look at the likes of Dara Spencer, the likes of Fionn Roach, the likes of Harry Kerr, as you mentioned, all on their day, capable of putting it up to McKeever. Do they maybe need a little bit of luck on their side to try and take him down? Quite possibly. But yeah, I think the sport in 4 or 5 years' time, with the talent that's coming through the Pro 2 Championship, with the juniors, rookies, we're in a really, really good place. There's a lot of exciting drivers who will have the backing as well.
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
the big thing. There's a lot of very good drivers in Pro 2 that don't have the financial backing to move up to Pro and compete at a high level. But there are a lot of young drivers coming through who are from families that will hopefully be able to support them on that journey.
Yeah, or sponsor. It has to be sponsorship or families, you know, or you have to have like a really good income sometimes to make that step up to pro. But it is possible to get there with sponsorship. I mean, I'm a perfect example, Eddie. To be honest, I made it work. Normal background, not a good mechanic by any means, that's for sure. Had a lot of help from Darren McNamara back in the day in MCN Sport First and then Group D, and lots of sponsors. I ended up with sponsors from 4 continents, and I'm literally just a normal guy from a family who have nothing got to do with motorsport in any way. So I just learned how to play the game, I guess. And we have YouTube now, obviously, as well. It's a huge thing, and if you're good at YouTube and you can tell your story, and what you need is a hook. You just need a hook. You need something that makes you stand out. You need something that makes people interested in you, and you need a good personality as well for that kind of stuff. It's not for everyone, but if you can do it, it makes it work.
You know, resilience to go and actually do it. And you know, a lot of people have the ability to go and do it, but they're scared to just step outside of their comfort zone, and that can be probably the most difficult part of it for people. But there are a lot of companies out there that want to support people, but as you say, Mike, you kind of got to prove that you can offer something back. As I'm looking to the distance here, Mike, and I'm seeing some patches of blue skies.
Yeah,
and
absolutely blue skies once again. Crazy stuff.
I'm hoping that is you know, a sign of good things to come.
Yeah.
It's still raining here, but certainly the wind has dropped down, which means it should be a little bit safer for our camera people to be up to those cherry pickers.
Of course, we are here in a World War II airfield, Eddie. This track that we're on right now was built as a World War II, functioning World War II airfield. I must Google this actually, but I think it was built around 1941 or 2. And yeah, this had live World War II action, had fighters and bombers taking off from it, one of the two anyway at least. So
if you see us ducking for cover.
Exactly. So yeah, interesting history here for sure, and different noises. Maybe not Lancaster bombers and things taking off here now, but
it's replaced with anti-lag,
and still lots of bangs and lots of engine noises happening. So interesting stuff, interesting layout, that's for sure. But there is a break in the clouds here, guys, and I do believe that the staff here are close enough to having the hatches battened down. So I do believe, Eddie, we're going to go to ads just for a couple of minutes, and guys, we will be back with you in a couple of minutes time once all of this crazy stuff is tidied up and everything is waterproofed and everything is windproof. So give us about 5-6 minutes, guys, and we should be back with you here for the rest of qualifying action here at IDS Round 2. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back in action. Everything is sorted. The hatches have been battened down, Eddie. It was like we were back in World War II there for a second, but
and it's a lovely day now, Mike.
It's a lovely day again, exactly, here up in Bishopscourt. So we're back in action here, guys, ready to rock and continue with qualifying. And it is going to be a difficult one for the drivers, that's for sure, because Eddie, it's very, very wet out there, and it's going to be drying, I would say. Even towards the end of qualifying, we might even start to see a dry line.
Yeah, the thing about it is a lot of standing water on the track now, but you know what, a man that's on the line, Christopher O'Callaghan, rally driver, should be used to ever-changing conditions and making adjustments based on it, but obviously drifting a new sport to him. Will he be able to make it work? 67 on his first run, Mike, sits in 29th position. We've already discussed the fact it's only, well, we started with 40, but a number of mechanical problems for some of our drivers in the grid, so he could be safe enough for his first ever top 32.
I think he can mathematically still be put out, because there are four drivers on a outside the top 30.
Yeah, but we have Lee McFadden there with engine problems.
Lee McFadden as well, yeah, exactly.
Jason McInerney had engine troubles. We don't know, is he going to come back out?
So he's not totally safe here, Christopher O'Callaghan,
no,
because he's in 29th position.
But definitely 3 drivers who have, say, working cars that we know of that could potentially pop him out of contention. But here we go. Can he improve on that score? There's going to be a challenge here with these conditions. Nice tentative entry. Gets it into that zone. It starts to wash just a little bit wide. You know, you'd forgive him that, Mike, given the conditions. Shies away from the wall a little bit. Oh, but it's a big straighten.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Eddie, interestingly, Christopher O'Callaghan actually looking a lot better in the wet than he did in the dry there. A lot more measured, a lot more controlled, but unfortunately for him, maybe just catching, getting caught out there. Front end grip. You want to get the front heated up as well here, Eddie. You want to push the front around in the burnout box, get heat into those front tyres, run low front tyre pressures as well, soft front shocks, let the front kind of move around a little bit and find the grip in these conditions. But Chris Callaghan there probably getting a 0, Eddie, or very close to it anyway. Yeah,
and you know, you touched on getting the heat into the tyres, Mike, something that, you know, a lot of the drivers don't manage to do properly in these type of conditions. As unfortunately the wind picks up here again here in Bishopscourt, and after causing one of our cameras to fall, so we may have a slight delay here as we look to get that fixed. And of course, this is a nightmare for our drivers now as they sit on the line waiting to try and get themselves into contention. The only saving grace for a lot of them is that they are safe into the top 32 based on what they managed to do on their first run. So end the lines with that score of 72. Well, he sits nicely up the order, sits in 25th position, so should be in the safe zone and safe for a top 32 battle, regardless of what happens on this next run.
I don't know what you're on about.
As I turn my mic on, I see David Curtis there with a 74.3. He will fancy his chances of a good result here today, Eddie. And you know, he's one of those drivers. I've seen him progress a lot in the wet conditions, and you know what, if it stays like this, I've seen him do very, very well in mixed conditions, so I'm fancying him for later on. And who's on the line, Eddie? Is it In the Lines is on the line now?
In the Lines, yes. As we said, sitting on that 72, just waiting to get confirmation that our cameras are back up and running, so our viewers at home can watch on.
Yeah, still a couple of issues here. With stuff getting blown around the track here.
Yeah, the clouds may have gone, Mike, but the wind certainly hasn't subsided at all. So it's really, really extreme conditions here. The wind very strong. Probably can't gauge that too well from the live stream.
Just the gusts of wind catching us out here as I was just signalling to our track controller there, Sean Healy, about stuff getting blown across the track there. And maybe not the best conditions for the drivers to try to navigate when they're making their way around the track and a water barrier or something all of a sudden pulls out in front of them. So not the easiest conditions, that's for sure, to go qualifying in, but hopefully now everything is getting tied down and we will be able to rock on with qualifying. So Kieran Hines, our head judge here, overseeing the moving of the cameras here as well. We're making sure that everything is all right and that we do have a functioning electronic suite to carry on with the live stream here. So In the Lines is on the line, Eddie, on a 72. He still has to improve as well. He's on 25th position. Not a huge result for In the Lines. He has more left in him. Justus Aranskis is up after him, and then Sean Watt, who will be loving these conditions. Sean Watt with the lowest powered car on the grid, I think, apart from maybe that A86 pedalled very, very competently by was it Jack Mawhinney?
Jack Mawhinney, yeah. So Sean Watt, as you say, is 27th position for Sean Watt. So safe by my calculations. Not that I'm the most amazing at the old mathematics, but looks as though Sean Watt should be safe for top 32. And as you say, he will be dreaming of the weather conditions staying like this, because not only will that suit his car, but also his driving style. He'll be very familiar with driving in conditions like this. Very capable driver behind the wheel, and that car should come alive if the conditions were to stay the same. So, as we say, it's hard to believe, Mike, after the long spell of good weather that we had in this country, that the most extreme and worst weather that we've probably had in maybe a month and a half is timed perfectly for a drift weekend, unfortunately, causing us to have slight delays and just kind of spoil our fun a little bit.
Yeah, but you know what, we're going to use it to our advantage once everything is sorted out here. We're going to enjoy the fruits of the changeable conditions, Eddie. It always throws up a lot of drama and makes it very, very exciting. Not that it needed to get any more exciting in IDS, but it makes it just a little bit more dramatic always. So let's embrace it, and let's see what happens throughout the battle bracket later on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't have to be out there driving. We're in close here. We're usually on a tower here in IDC, of course, guys, where we have a truck basically that you can build a tower up on top of a judging tower, where everything is controlled from. But the sides of it are open. It's just a canopy on top, and it's not the best place in the world in strong wind and strong rain. But we're lucky enough, so up here in Bishopscourt there has been just a shipping container converted and made basically into a judging tower for the drift events here. So fantastic work by the staff here at Bishopscourt Diff and Drift. And be sure as well, guys, if you are anywhere near the locality, be sure to get up here to Bishopscourt, because you can of course get your own car out on track here very easily once it meets the required safety standards, and enjoy the track to yourself here. And multiple layouts available. The live stream panned over to the freestyle area over on the runway to our left there, so a big area just cordoned off by tyres. You can just basically go in there, drift your own car around the place and have a lot of fun.
Sorry, Mike, I overheard you talking about the other section of the track. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good times.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, I was actually disappointed on two fronts yesterday. One, that my car wasn't working, but two, I normally wouldn't make it past, even if I qualified, I wouldn't make it past the top 32. But to have the option then, I saw so many drivers who didn't qualify or got knocked out, were able to go and do hours upon hours of tandem driving in the wet around that section of the track. And what an opportunity that is on a drift weekend. When do you ever get additional seat time once you've been knocked out of competition? So also great to go in and be able to just test your car. Obviously for the borrowed car that I had yesterday, I was able to go in and just get a quick idea of what it was like. That car, of course, had a much larger gentleman than I am, which wouldn't be hard sitting in it. I had about 10 hoodies in behind me, and when I initiated, I fell out of the seat.
Nice, not ideal. I had the same thing actually myself in Pete Nielsen's car in Drift Masters.
And we'd be pretty tall guys. Like,
we were tall fellas,
like, you know, be deceptive like.
Pete Nielsen kindly lent me his 180SX for Drift Masters when my own clutch expired. Well, it was my own fault actually. I killed my own clutch to keep myself from a huge collision in Drift Masters actually, but just before qualifying.
But for anyone who doesn't know Pete Nielsen, Mike Fitz is here, and Pete Nielsen.
Well, I'm actually here, Eddie.
Oh, you're there.
I'm actually here as Kieran Hines knocks off our camera.
Not working.
It's not working.
It's not plugged in.
So it looks like we are almost ready to go. As we say, unfortunately,
Alright, you're good.
as we try and add a live stream, we are then faced with the technical difficulties that come with it, particularly when the weather starts to beat us.
With staff members running in and out and knocking off cameras and everything. But we're back. We are back.
So Kieran Hines is gesturing to me off camera. Ever the professional.
As always, thank you, Kieran. So we are ready to rock. Finally, guys, back for qualifying. We did have one lap in the middle, and ready to rock, I do believe, for qualifying. After all that madness cast down by the crazy weather here, super strong gusts of wind and torrential rain there, all of a sudden. And no idea, once again, you could go out tanning yourself here once again. It is absolutely lovely.
Yeah, well, look, as we say, the wind is still up, Mike, but crucially, we can see blue skies, and you know, for quite a bit of a distance as well. So hopefully, that should mean that while the track won't be dry, it will be starting to dry, and the wind should help it dry as well, along with the drivers passing through the circuit. So with a bit of luck, no more issues, and we can bang straight through the last two thirds of our
last
of our
one
grid.
third. we've done 2/3 already, so the last third
But
qualifying.
2/3 of our drivers.
Oh, yes, yeah,
left
yeah,
to do
yeah.
their second run.
Yes,
so
exactly. Yeah, for the second run, exactly.
We're very mathematical, Mike.
So
We're doing Pythagoras theorems now by the end of this. But anyway, so end of line is trying to warm those tyres. But crucially, Mike, you were talking about the importance of warming the tyres. A lot of drivers don't actually warm their tyres sufficiently for the wet weather, and you really want to see smoke starting to appear from the back tyres to indicate that they've managed to get enough heat into them.
Absolutely.
Very difficult to get the heat into the front tyres.
You want to do a rolling burnout at best for the rears, and we do see smoke there from the back of End of Line's car. Like you said, Eddie, on the front it's very hard to get heat into them. The best you can hope to do is just push them around a little bit, scrub off the marbles, and just get out there. And you can't, in the wet anyway, you can't push the front too much. You can't rely on it that much, so it's down to driving style in the wet. Oh.
Well, here goes End of Lines on his, well, we're going to call it his first run from these conditions of qualifying. His 72 on the first run, barring some sort of exceptional drive and adjustment to the conditions, will probably be his qualifying score. But doing a good job here, Mike. I mean, he's not struggling by any stretch of the imagination. It's certainly not as quick and exciting as it was in the dry, but technically it's quite good. Dropping in and out of that final outer zone, but he gets himself across the line. And I think, from where I was watching, End of Line's doing a really good job, and it's an 85, a huge improvement on his first run.
Yeah.
And maybe a man who is happy to see a little bit of wet conditions out on the track. Huge improvement there for Enda, as Justus Aranskas now leaves the line. He's got a 70 on the board, so safe for the battles.
Well, kind of safe. He's in 28th position, Eddie, so you don't know.
And the
Should
wet
be
conditions
safe, but
not working out for Justus here. Really getting that line wrong through the first section, and just hasn't really gelled with it this weekend. Did have problems with the car. He had to drive an hour down the road to get some parts yesterday, but got that car back up and running and back on the start line. But it's just not the run that Justus was looking for here in the little E82 coupe, and he gets it across the line. I'm not sure is that going to be an improvement on the 70.3 from the first run, as we await the scores to drop in from the judges to see can he bump himself up that order even ever so slightly.
one of the most distinctive cars on the grid as well there by Justus.
Yeah, it really is a nice car. 78, so
It does improve.
enough of a jump there, you'd feel, for Justus to get himself properly safe.
A man who will love the rain up next, Eddie.
Yeah, well, Sean Watt, we spoke about him needing these same conditions, but he gets it wrong. Gets it wrong, Mike, on the entry. Manages to make it work, but the judges are going to deem that as very unchaseable, you would assume.
Yeah, he just kind of got stuck. The car wouldn't rotate back for him quickly enough there, so a little bit of a funny injury there from Sean Watt. But like you said, Eddie, he did gather it up a little bit, and once he entered the clipping zone, he was pretty much in the right place, so it won't be a huge deduction.
It kind of looked like he had initiated the wrong way, essentially, but you'd imagine the conditions had a lot to play in that as well. So, across the line, as we say, Sean Watt should be safe with the 71.3 on his first run, and he gets an identical score on his second run. So, two 71.3s, you can't get more consistent than that, but you would want those scores to be further up the order, you'd imagine. So Adrienne Wheatley now leaves the line. She's got an 81 in the books from her first attempt. Mike, can she improve in the wet weather? Well, we're about to find out. Tentative entry from Adrienne as she takes out a cone, and then comes off that line onto the inside line, and a big straighten now. I think she's backed out of the run altogether, Mike.
Yeah, she knows she's pretty safe after the first run there, Ed. She should use this as a practice lap to gauge those conditions for later on in battle action, because she will be in battle action later on. So Adrienne doing her best here in very, very sketchy conditions. A little bit off the wall there, and gets the car rotated around. Bit of a funny transition there as well. Didn't quite maintain drift. True transition and crosses the line. So Adrienne, I think, like you said there, really just backing out of it a little bit. She's on an 81.7 from her first run, so she's safe enough.
And she does get a score on the second run, 32. Not that it'll matter too much. As you say, she's in the top 32. She's in the game for later on, and a first pro top 32 for Adrienne Wheatley as well, Mike. That's incredible.
Yeah, I definitely liked her qualifying in Mondello. Just make it into the show, but she'll be delighted now with this in pro action for Adrienne Wheatley. We move it along to a man no stranger to pro competition. It's Darrell Barnett in the BMW.
Oh yeah, and he's thrown it in fast, Mike, on big angle, and he's completely missed that outer zone.
And straightens up as well, Eddie. Big mistake there.
Yeah, another driver going to have to rely now on the first run, and you can just see, Mike, how some drivers can adapt to the conditions so much better than others. Now, you would expect that Darrell Barnett would be able to adjust to this. A very talented driver and a man with a lot of experience, wet or dry, but not getting it together on this occasion. Sits in 26th position, safe for the top 32, so it won't matter too much. A driver that really comes alive in the battles.
He does actually improve, Eddie, very slightly with a 73 in that second run, so slight improvement. And we spoke a lot yesterday, Eddie, about the difficulty in the wet conditions with the bigger turbo cars. That's a 1JZ Darrell Barnett has, but the bigger turbo cars now with a little bit of turbo, like the big, huge horsepower cars, really don't like the wet because you don't have that throttle modulation that you get with the naturally aspirated cars. We'll say if some one of these guys has a V8, for instance, has an LS, it's super easy to drive in the wet. But a big, huge turbo on the likes of a J2J or RB tends to be a lot more difficult to drive, so that will come into play while the conditions are like this.
So there you can see our live leaderboard with Dwayne McKeever at the top. Steph, now what can Adam Kelly do on his second run? He is dangerously close to the drop zone. 29th position at the moment with a 69 on his first run. Judges seem to be making some allowances as well for the conditions for these drivers and how they're scoring these second runs. So will that be an opportunity for Adam Kelly to bump himself right up the order? So treacherous and difficult. Mike, look at the amount of standing water as they just splash through the puddles. It would remind you of the old days in Fermoy Mart when we used to get huge volumes of floods on the track.
It would indeed, yeah.
But Adam Kelly with that 69 on the first run, it is an improvement to 77, so he gets himself out of the danger zone, right up the order into 23rd, and safe, crucially, for the top 32.
Yeah, definitely a good improvement there from Adam Kelly. He did handbrake through the last transition, which the judges definitely knocked him down for, but overall a better lap than his first one.
Now Damien McKernan, the man from Oma, with an 83 from the first
Whoa.
one. Well, he's coming in with huge angle. He's not going to make that work, Mike.
No, that was very much a dry weather flick entry.
He's got the hand out the window, guys. Make some noise for Damien McKernan as he puts on a little bit of a show. Obviously trying to, maybe just test the conditions, Mike. See what he could get away with. Find the limits. And, knowing that he was safe inside the top 32. So, of course, the cutoff at the moment, Damien Wilkinson, a score of 54.3. And there are five drivers outside of the top 32 who could knock him out. So Brendan Burke on a 51, and then Darragh McElroy, Sean Owen Curry, Jason McInerney and Lee McFadden, all of them sitting without a score. Gary Dunn now for his second run of qualifying on an 80.3 from the first attempt. A man with a wealth of experience in Ireland and across in the BDCs, driving a 2JZ powered Altezza IS200, 850 brake horsepower under the bonnet of this car. They must have done an engine swap in it, Mike, since we saw it last, because it was a standard engine earlier on, wasn't it?
It was a completely standard 1G earlier on, but I think they dropped in a 2J, 600 and something horsepower, down in DRT Automotive there. Just had the 2J with them, said they'll drop it in for the second run for the wet. Yeah,
so what can the Fresh Prince of Kildare do on this second run? Well, nails the line so far, takes it down onto the wall. Of course, this is a borrowed car from Andrew Kenna from DRT Automotive. And never easy to do it in your own car, Mike. Never mind borrowing someone else's and throwing it at the walls. But Gary Dunn doing a really nice job here, feathering that car and managing the conditions quite well here. Wet or dry, seems to be able to adjust and adapt. And shout out to the tyre box, Sean Corley in the tyre box, supplying Gary and a lot of our drivers on the grid with tyres. Tommy
and I just
Dunn,
like to,
father of Gary, would be absolutely delighted. Score drops in an 85.7, puts Gary into 7th position. Tommy, it's time for bottles of Heineken. Get the bottle opener and start cracking them open.
I'd just like to say, unless, in case any of the IS200 owners out there are getting very excited, we were joking about that being a standard 1G engine, but this is a 2G as well. Look at it, it's Stephen Halferty sliding the BMW, the big BMW in fact, the E36 Touring, into our first outer zone there, and very much a guy to watch. Keep an eye on this guy, ladies and gents, because he is one of the best drivers in Ireland, that is for sure, and he now has the power to back up the talent, and he's doing a very, very good job here in the wet conditions. That he looks like he's been practicing in the wet. Maybe could have been a tiny bit wider there on clipping point 3. Gets the car rotated, could be definitely a lot wider at 4. Great lap up to that point, but Halferty just leaving a few points on the board at the end.
Yeah, as you say, look, really difficult. He's going to rely probably on that 84, but definitely I would say Ireland's best ginger drifter, Mike.
What about Cian Leahy?
Well, it's a good argument.
It's a good argument.
But he's not in the pro. He's not in the pro class.
He's not in
you
the
know?
pro class, exactly. So
Darren McElroy now on the 0. So this is one of the drivers that can ruin the weekend for Damien Wilkinson. But he needs to put in a score of 54 or better. And he's coming in with a big angle, lots of speed. Just drops out of that first outer zone, throws it nicely onto the wall. Just throws on the anchors to try and kill the speed there. Keeps that angle. It's nice and smooth on the throttle delivery.
as Adam Driver, our commentator from yesterday, and our roving reporter in the pits, drops us up a nice cup of tea, which is fantastic. Thank you, Adam. And nice lap there, definitely an improvement, I would say, from Darren McElroy over his first score at least. And I do see the scoreboard jumping in front of us and changing, which means that he did improve. And Eddie, that is a much better score from Darren McElroy with an 83.7, dropping Darren McElroy into 13th position. Dwayne McKeever still leading qualifying, but it means that we lose Damien Wilkinson.
And it puts the man that is on your screens right now, Dean Byrne, on the drop zone, so he needs to find something special here. Does Dean Byrne. Goes for the fast, aggressive entry, Mike, as well. Just about manages to make it work, but you can see how difficult it is. The adjustments that these drivers need to make are endless.
Yeah, big entry in the first one from Dean there, and just lost it coming into the wall on the first lap, so huge pressure on his shoulders. He currently sits in 32nd position here, guys. He's going to know that as well. So there's huge pressure on this man's shoulders inside this 180SX. You know what, Eddie? He's dealing with the pressure, and I think he's after improving.
Well, if he does improve, he takes the pressure off his shoulders and he puts them onto the shoulders of Mark McKevitt, and it looks as though he has done. He's jumped up the order, and quite substantially, and it looks as though he's moved into 7th position with an 87, so big jump there for Dean Byrne as Jack Mawhinney now leaves the line in the little Corolla. Mike, look at this.
He's going to love this.
He's going to absolutely love it, and look at the line.
Wow, what an entry from young Jack Mawhinney. I mean, he's not driven this car in these conditions recently anyway. The little Corolla pulled from the car park by the looks of it, and what an entry. Kept the car right on that outside line, feathering the throttle here, that beautiful naturally aspirated 4-cylinder noise that we all know and love. And look at this lap, guys. Watch this. Maybe could be a little bit wider, okay, on zone 4, but overall, what an attempt.
Scrap the BMW.
Guys, big round of applause for that run there from the amazing Jack
I think this
Mawhinney.
is going to go big, Mike. I think this could go all the way to the top, maybe even to first position.
I'm not sure about that last zone, Eddie. He just didn't drop the wheel.
Well, look at this, though. The score drops in, Mike, and it's a 90.3 for Jack Mawhinney. Jumps into 4th position. Not enough to take down Dwayne McKeever, but what an effort in that little Corolla.
What an effort. His dad, Cedric, usually off to the Isle of Man TT. Not this year, he said, but next year again, and he'll be delighted with that one. Now we move it along to a man who will definitely want to improve as well. It is Nicky Davey. I don't think he's going to improve, Eddie. That was a very, very bad entry. Almost spun the car, just about caught it.
Yeah, very evident, Mike, that Davies do not do flooding. So, not the run that Nicky Davey wanted, but he has a 72.2. Where does he sit in the order?
He's in 29th position, Eddie, so he should be just about
I think
safe.
he's going to be safe enough.
He's going to be facing off against Dwayne McKeever, Jake McElveen, or Owen Magner, or Jack Mawhinney. This is not a good position to be in.
No, it's going to be a tough spot to be in, even if he does manage to get a spot in the top 32, which it looks as though he will. So Mark McKevitt sits on the drop line, a 59.7. Now the score to beat to get you access into that top 32, and a man sitting on the line is going to be hoping to get that score at least, if not better. Sean Owen Curry couldn't make it work on the first run, couldn't get the entry right. Now the conditions have completely flipped.
And like I said, Eddie, it's already drying out there. Look, we have a dry inside of the track here.
And this is an even bigger nightmare.
This is harder, yeah. This is way harder. If it's fully wet, okay. If it's fully dry, fantastic. If it's half wet, half dry, oh my word, it is the hardest thing. And you mentioned for my Eddie, a former venue we used to have for the Irish Drift Championship and Pro Drift, in fact, going way back in the day. But for my was a nightmare. There was 4 different surfaces there. It was literally a marked car park. So you might have had cows doing their thing on it the day before. You would have had diesel lorries down there, doing the do. Diesel lorries down there, laying diesel down. Next thing, these supercars come down there and go absolutely nuts down there. It rains and it's absolutely crazy. It's so difficult. So I'm not sure what the grip levels are like here in Bishopscourt, but it looks like a uniform surface at least.
Yeah, and I think, it's fitting that we're talking about the old days of Fermoy Marts when we see Jack Mahoney going out in a little Corolla like that.
Absolutely.
It brings you right back, and it shows you as well just how far the sport has come. And for anybody that's lucky enough to have witnessed those days, but we got to go back to the start line, Mike, because Sean Owen Curry is got to get it done here on this second run.
And he's on absolutely nothing currently, guys. He's on a 0, and he had a big flick entry. Very brave there from Sean Owen, Eddie.
It really was, especially for a driver that had been struggling with that entry all morning, but he's got it dialed this time around. And as we say, the wet conditions just helping some of these drivers. You can see those patchy sections where it's starting to dry up.
Big straight
just
there,
like
Eddie.
on that transition, and very difficult for drivers to go from wet to dry and negotiate that. Sean Owen Curry getting caught out a little bit, but he gets it back on the line. It's going to be a score, Mike, and I think it's going to be enough.
It is. We do not give a 0 for points we don't give a 0 for points deduction. I was going to say we don't give a 0 for straighten in the transition in IDS. It is just a points deduction, and the judges liking that one. So a 78 for Sean Owen Curry does improve. He's in 25th position, which means that Mark McKevitt exits competition, and Justice Aranskis is now in 32nd.
Well, the last time Owen Magner came out onto the circuit, he was in top spot. He now sits in third with Jake McElveen, the Pro 2 junior driver, and Dwayne McKeever sitting ahead of him, the only two drivers that out-qualifying him so far. It doesn't look like it's going to be an improvement. Got a little bit caught up there as he came out of outer zone 1, but this on a very strong wide line again.
Yeah.
And
Great
what
line
a
there.
talent this driver.
Yeah, what a talent he is. Maybe not having the perfect round 1, as you mentioned. He's not up there where he wants to be in this championship, but you know what? He has it in his locker. He has the ability, and he crosses the line. And he has it in the water as well, Eddie, down there in Killavullen.
Yeah, well, he's certainly in the water here today, and 91 on the first run, only a 74 on the second. He won't mind too much about that valuable track time in the wet conditions. As we say, it is drying out now, so it's becoming treacherous for the drivers, and this is not where Jason McInerney wants to find himself.
It is not.
Needing a big run with a difficult half wet, half dry track, floods in one patch, bone dry in other sections, in almost impossible conditions, Mike. He's got to find a score.
The nerves.
It needs to be bigger than a 70.3, so he can't hold back. He's got to go for it. What can McInerney do as he goes big angle? Doesn't make it work, Mike.
Oh, it hasn't worked out for him, Eddie. It hasn't worked out. He had no choice, like you said. It hasn't worked out for him, but he might still be able to beat the 70 if he has a perfect lap from here on out. He might still just about get himself in the show, but it's going to be a big ask here, Eddie. He's bled off a lot of points.
Yeah, well, if you take it, he's missed that whole first section, and essentially that would be an automatic 20-point deduction potentially. So even with being perfect for the rest of the run, it would still have him down at around the 80-point mark, and the rest of it wasn't perfect. So you can expect to see this, maybe even down at the 60s. Could it scrape into a 70? No, a 65.
What you might need to do here, Eddie, and he doesn't qualify. Jason McInerney goes into 33rd position, doesn't qualify.
Yeah, a sigh of relief for Justice Aranskis as he survives one more. Now Ben Rogers sits on the line. Well, it was an 89 in the first run for Ben Rogers. He's dropped down the order a little bit. He's down in 6th position from where he was, so when I say he's dropped down just a small bit, he's dropped down one place. But he is going to be looking to put on a show and drive himself up the order. Can he top qualify?
Oh, very brave entry. And look, it's worked out for Ben Rogers. What an entry from Ben Rogers. Flicked it in Japanese style into the first section, and it paid off, Eddie.
Yeah, it really did. An incredible, just has the feel, has the touch, It's just able to weigh that up so incredibly well, wet or dry, and make that adjustment. It just goes to show, when we talk about Ben Rogers being a talented driver and a star of the future, this is exactly why. It's driving like this, adaptation, able to overcome any obstacle to put in his way. It was an 89 on the first run. I won't be surprised to see this go close to a 90 on the second one as well, Mike. I think this one's going to be right up there.
Close to a 90 like an 89?
Yeah, and it's an 88.
88.3, you were right, Eddie, close to a 90. It was indeed. So a great pair of runs there from Ben Rogers. Unfortunate for Jason McInerney prior to that, but Justice Aranskis will live to fight another day as we move it along to our next driver, which is Lee McFadden.
Yes,
is on the line.
so
Justice Aranskis is in danger here. Lee McFadden had engine problems, didn't get out for his first run, guys, but he is on the line.
Not only is Justice in danger, I think we're all in danger, because this man never commits or never lacks commitment when he throws the car into a competition circuit. And Lee McFadden, the man from Creasla, in the MTM 180SX, no stranger to the limiter, but he'll be all about getting that perfect line here. Won't be leaving anything to chance. Now is not the time for a flamboyant runs here for Lee McFadden. It's all about being calculated. He'll have Connor Peoples in his ear, spotting for him, letting him know it doesn't need to be amazing, it just needs to be better than a 70.3 to get yourself into the top 32. And Lee McFadden is showing signs of maturity there, and just a sensible approach to that run. But is it enough?
Well, we usually hear lots of rev limiter from Lee McFadden. That time, lots of clutch action to keep the car
you
steady.
You won't believe this.
Oh,
Look at
my
the score,
word.
a tied score, a 70.3 for Lee McFadden, but having scored a 0 on the first run, or having not done that first run, Justice Aranskas looks like he will move through because he has 2 runs. We move back to the start line, back to the first corner where Harry Kerr, who doesn't need a run here, on a 90 from the first attempt, Mike, well, he's looking to try and top qualifying and take down Dwayne McKeever.
Yeah, the Ballymoney bomber looking good here out on track and doing everything he needs to do. We saw his sister Molly actually driving yesterday, looking very good in battle action, but unfortunately she had a collision which put her out of competition, just breaking a tie rod in her 350Z. But Harry Kerr looks like he will be in competition, and you know what, Eddie, I love to see Harry Kerr out on track. He's always so entertaining, so committed. Anything could happen. There could be a crash, there could be a trophy, who knows.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those drivers who treats his drift car exactly as it should be, like a tool, and that's exactly what it's for. It's designed to be driven hard, it's designed to be driven to the walls and used aggressively, and that's exactly what he does. And Harry Kerr doesn't improve, so he stays where he is. Now Brendan Burke on a 51, so he's got it all to do, but he can drop Justice Aranskas now out of the top 32 with a big run here. But he's got to find something special. He's got to find it now.
He needs to get
no
on the
time
throttle.
for mistakes.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, Michael. You can see the change in the body language of the car when he did get on throttle there as well.
Yeah, he needed to get on the throttle there a second earlier just to keep the rotation happening there and keep the S13 in that outer zone. Now, it's not a huge mistake. It will bleed him off maybe 5 points possibly, that kind of way. So let's see if Brendan has enough in the locker. He's after leaving outer zone 3 out on track here as well, Eddie. The Galway man, maybe not with the perfect lap here. Nice outer zone 4 to finish off there. Pretty much picks up the whole zone there with nice style. He's happy with the run, and I'm not sure if the judges are going to be happy enough to put him in the show though. So let's see Brendan Burke scores and drops in. But they are, Eddie, they are indeed. It's an 80.3 for Brendan Burke. Big improvement for him there. And that means that Justice Aranskas has exited competition, and Sean Watt is now on the drop zone, but should be safe, Eddie, I would say, at this stage.
Yeah, he'll be hoping that he is. We'll have to do the calculations, but now Jakub Kuzczak.
Whoa, he's a gear too low here, Eddie. There's a lot of rev limiter happening. He needs to find third in that gearbox, I think.
Yeah, well, hopefully he has third there somewhere, but it seems as though he's choosing to stay in whatever gear he's in.
Yeah, he's using all the RPM here in the 2JZ engine. Jakub Kuzczak, of course, 4th in IDC last year after coming up from the Pro 2 competition. 4 out of the 5 rounds, crazy record. One Pro 2 came 4th in Pro competition and has aspirations to take that Pro crown outright this year. But Eddie, he's going to have to do a little bit better. Although he did quite good there, actually, guys. It's a 90.7 for Cuba, which sees him in 4th position. So a big score there from him.
So Dara Spencer sits on the line, an 81.3 on the first run, sees him a little bit further down the order than he'd like, 20th position. So Dara will be hoping to try and improve on that. His stablemate Lee McFadden not making it into the show. Dara coming in hot and fast here. Can he hold it and make it work? Very difficult just to even get a gauge on where the markings are, where the line is on the track with all the standing water. And Dara doing a nice job here. Now filling that outer zone, flirting with the edge of the circuit. Gets it back on angle, takes it to the wall. Nice early transition as he sets himself up for the final zone. And across the line goes Dara Spencer. Nice job there given the difficult track conditions.
Yeah, not a perfect final zone there from Dara Spencer, but overall a really, really good lap there. Pretty much what the judges wanted to see, and it is an improvement.
Yeah, an 83.7 for Dara Spencer. And yeah, it bumps him up the order, so it goes up into 16th position. So a nice little jump there, but it's going to mean a difficult run through to the final if he was to make it there. As we go back to the start line now.
A Driftmaster driver here, Eddie, on the start line now, and 29th position for Fionn Rudge. So he's going to be facing off against Jakub Kuzczak if things stay as they are, which they might not. But that's a difficult draw. He needs to improve here to give himself a better chance in the top 32.
Yeah, well, he's certainly coming for it, and very fast, very aggressive. Can he make it work? Certainly can. Again, Mike, we talk about just not being as deep into those zones as the judges want to see. You know, it's almost like we're being critical of the drivers, but you know the judges are going to be critical of what happens out on the circuit. So we got to call it as we see it. But certainly Fionn Roach looking comfortable out there in these conditions. Would have done a lot of wet driving over in Scotland at Driftland, so no stranger to conditions like this, and gets it across the line. So sitting on that 77, will we see a jump in the score? We do, an 86 for Fionn Roach. Jumps him right up into the top 10, 9th position with that second run 86.
Yeah, big improvement there from Fionn. He'll be happy with that one. And now, Eddie, it is going to get very hot and heavy from here on in as we move into our top 4 in the championship. On the line, he's delicious. He's suspicious. He can even be nutritious. Who is it, Eddie?
Well, it is Paulius Judicious for his second run, and an 80.3 on the first attempt. Drops in and out of that first zone. A little bit of a straighten there as he makes that transition towards that second outer zone. And Paulius, as we say, problems with the car, not driving the way he would like after a big impact with the wall on Friday practice. But Paulius and the team doing their bit to try and get it back out on track and try and, you know, get as many championship points on the board as possible here at round 2.
It might just be racing driver excuses, Eddie. You have to have them ready. Very important. Engine misfires, car not handling, all that kind of stuff. Really important to have your excuses ready.
Yeah, I mean, look, usually the bookshops are sold out of the book of excuses, Mike. That's how popular they are. It's hard to keep them on the shelves, but we do need to have them to hand.
We do indeed, as Paulius' second score drops in, and it is an 81 for Paulius. Tiny improvement there as we move it along to our second place championship driver. We don't have Jack Caldwell, but we do have, who have we, Eddie?
Well, it's Ryusei Akiba. And Ryusei, as we say, with his exciting Japanese style, he's got an 85 on the first run, so he's well up the order there, Ryusei, sitting in 11th position. But in terms of championship points, he'd be ideally want an improvement here, get himself into a better battle position. The last thing he wants is to be staring down the barrel of a potential top 16, top 8 battle with the likes of a Dwayne McKeever or an Owen Magner or a Jakub Kuszczak. So the further up the order he can get himself, the better for his hopes. He does improve. An 89.3 for Ryusei Akiba in the wet conditions sees him inside that top 10 into 7th position. And ladies and gentlemen, that leaves us with one driver remaining, one more run of qualifying here at round 2 of the Lucky Day Competitions Irish Drift Series, and it is the Northern Smoke Machine, Dwayne McKeever, your current qualifying leader with a 93.3. He doesn't need to do anything here, Mike. He's not going to be out qualified. He will take that number 1 spot, but looking to just get some valuable track time, test the conditions, and maybe put on a show for the fans.
He's just showing off, Eddie. He said, look, it's halfway at half try, but I'm going to put in a massive lap here in the 90s anyway, just to show you guys that I'm the best. My name's Dwayne McKeever. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you get a slight little glimpse of the action behind the wheel as he comes past the judging tower here, Mike, and he's just looks so effortless. It's like he's quite literally out for a Sunday drive.
Yeah, if you watch James Dean driving, it looks like he's not even trying. So Valentino Rossi was the same on a bike. It's all the top guys just look like that. They're so in control. So Dwayne McKeever, do we have a second score from Dwayne? We do. It's also in the 90s.
Yeah, just a 90 dead. So you know, pretty poor for Dwayne.
Yeah, 90, pretty poor for Dwayne standards, exactly. So that is qualifying wrapped up, guys, and you're top 32. We might have some tight scores here to sort out, so there might be just 1 or 2 drivers swapping positions, but we can announce that Justus Aranskis and Lee McFadden have both not qualified on a 70.3 even, but who has qualified is Sean Watt on a 71.3, so 1 point extra for Sean Watt there on a 71.3, qualifying him in 32nd position. 31st is Nicky Davey, 30th is Darrell Barnett, 29th is Alan O'Loughlin, 28th is Adam Kelly, 27th is Sean O'Curry, 26th is David Curtis, then it's Christopher O'Callaghan, Luke Talley up from Pro 2 yesterday, Jack Caldwell, Paulius Judicious, Dylan Wilson, and in 28th is Adrian Wheatley. She'll be delighted with that. 19th it's Damien McKiernan, 18th it's Brendan Burke, 17th is Dara Spencer, 16th is Darren McElroy, followed by David Garvey in the new car, then Stephen Halferty with 2 JZ Powers in 14th, in the Lions in 13th, 12th position is former Pro 2 champion Johnny Flynn, then it's Gary Dunn in the borrowed Altezza, 10th position is Drift Masters driver Fionn Roach. 9th position is Dean Byrne. In 8th with a couple of great laps it's Ben Rogers. 7th position all the way from Japan it's Ryusei Akiba. Sixth position in the borrowed little 8-6 that could, it's Jack Mawhinney. Fifth position from up the road in Ballymoney, it is Harry Kerr. Fourth position is last year's Pro 2 champion Jakob Krzyzak. Third position is the up-and-coming Owen Magner. Second position, what a run, Jake McElveen, Pro 2 junior driver, in second position with a 91.7. And first position here at IDS Round 2 2025 is the Northern Smoke Machine from just over the road. It is Dwayne McKeever winning qualifying with a 93.3. So guys, we are going to grid these drivers for battle action. We'll be back at about, I am told it's about 2:30, maybe 2:45. And so get yourselves over to the Trade Village. You can pick up some IDS merch there. There's a limited edition Battle of Bishopscourt hoodie, I believe, as well. And if you're watching at home, thank you guys for joining us. We have just gridded, or we have just got the drivers whittled down to 32, and of course battle action will follow this afternoon. So be sure to join us back here on the YouTube, on the live stream, and here in person in Bishopscourt for IDS Round 2 battle action in about 45 minutes time. Less? At half 2, I'm told, from Sean Healy. So half two guys, battle action. We will see you then. Thank you very much.
This is how